Today on Doomed, it is Inauguration Day. The inauguration of Joe Biden, January 20th, 2021. And as you all know, the day ended with the storm. Mass arrests taking out just everyone. Sitting there watching Joe Biden's inauguration, Obama arrested, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton arrested. They even got Lady Gaga. Just everyone taken away, and that's the storm came. Just what QAnon always was talking about, right? Well, no, that did not happen today, folks. That did not happen today. Joe Biden is now the president of the United States, and with me right now to talk about the day. Well, before I get to him, actually, let me pull us up on the screen here. We got, one second. What did I just do? 1 second. All right. Well, patreon.com/MattBinder to support the show. YouTube.com/MattBinder for the live stream. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, @MattBinder, all those places. Doomedpod.com for the podcast. And let me pull up my guest at this time. He's the host of the Shitpost podcast. And what is your new title? This is the first time you've been on the show since you left Right Wing Watch for a brand new position at a brand new place, Jared.
Yeah, so towards the end of last year, I left Right Wing Watch and went over to the Digital Forensic Research Lab at the Atlantic Council, where I've been doing a lot of the same stuff that I was doing before, but in a setting, more specifically trying to come up with answers to some of the harder questions on, what we do about all of this.
All right, and I hear Pierre back there.
Yeah, Pierre's here.
Now, what is his new position?
It's a bonus for the Matt Binder YouTube channel. You guys can see Pierre. Pierre, come here.
Oh, look at this, folks. I don't think any other show gets this because, they're all doing podcasts, right?
1 second.
All right, let's see that Pierre on the special inauguration. Oh, he's gone. All right. Wait. Jared has left the seat again to go find Pierre. Riveting stuff for folks listening to the podcast version of this show. Doompod.com. All right, wait, Jared's back. Here we go. And there's Pierre. Hello, Pierre. Running to his daddy. Is that how you look at Pierre, as your son, or is he like your brother? What is the Pierre Jared relationship?
Oh, he's definitely my son. Nothing will ever change that.
Got it.
He's also my boss and my dad. So.
Okay. Ooh, he's getting feisty there. So Pierre, let me ask Pierre some questions while you got him here.
Sure.
Now, Pierre,
you've got some questions. You want to listen in?
Now, Pierre, it is a known fact that you are a follower of the QAnon conspiracy theory. It's caused many rifts inside the Holt household. What is your feelings about Joe Biden being inaugurated and the mass arrests not occurring?
I
hear.
He says that Joe Biden is Q. Patriots are in control. Trump was not trying to overturn the election. Rather, it's a 4D chess move. By installing Joe Biden as the next president, MAGA can finally come to fruition. That's what you said, isn't it, P?
Oh, I love it, Pierre. That is very, very astute analysis, Pierre. Thank you.
Yeah, I've been letting him watch YouTube, so I don't. He's getting all this stuff in his head.
Now, Jared, when are you gonna have to talk with him to try to pull him out of this hole he's dug himself into? Of the many holes I'm sure he digs, this one I think is too deep.
Yeah, it's tough, right? Because you want him to dig and learn and do and have all those enriching experiences, but I guess I haven't really figured it out yet. I guess I'll probably just get a little piece of baked chicken and wiggle it around on the other side of the room, and maybe he'll stop digging himself in this hole at that point.
All right. Well, Pierre, it was a pleasure to get some analysis from a QAnon follower. Where we go one, we go all. And I guess I don't know. I'm trying to think of a dog pun to make there.
Yeah. All right. Well, he'll say bye.
Take care, Pierre. Here we go. All right.
All right.
Now,
Okay,
Jared,
I'm back.
Now, Jared,
Now on to the less interesting part of this. What's up?
Right. So, there's a lot to talk about today. But first, I actually want to bring up, because it just came to my attention. I saw someone in the chat say, which fascist troll will invade the chat today? YouTube.com/Matt Binder. You can drop a super chat in there, too. Ask questions, and me and Jared will take them.
Yeah, we really hate it when you give us money. Triggers us really bad.
Right. No, speaking of people who make money from live stream chat donations, last time you were on this show, Baked Alaska was in the chat, and he wanted to.
Oh my god! I almost forgot about this.
Right, he wanted to come on the show, and I got to tell you, I am really regretting not having him on the show that day, just letting him call in, because our good old buddy Baked Alaska. A lot's happened to him since he was in the YouTube chat. When did we last have this? Oh, that was like during the week of us doing the RNC shows, right? It's gotta be.
Yeah, that must. I think that was the last time.
Right.
We did a show together.
Right. Well, we did many shows that week. Well, we did four shows in a row that week, right?
Yeah. We did a marathon. So if anybody is listening, and you have a connection to the Maricopa County Prison, we need to get an iPhone with Wi-Fi service to Baked Alaska. We really miss him, folks. It's Yoba, baby. It's here at Baked Alaska.
Now, the funny thing is, he emailed me after that show, and he said, "Hey, you said you were open to talking to me. I dare you to come on my show," or something like that. And I did not respond, because first of all, that was not the terms of the deal. The deal was he had to come on this show, because I wasn't going to go on his little white power hour. I don't know what the hell he's doing over there.
Whatever it is.
Yeah. I'll talk to him here if he wants to call in, but I'm not going on that one. But he doesn't even have that anymore, actually. I think last time I checked, D-Live gave him the boot. D-Live, of all places, gave him the boot. That was the new live streaming safe haven for all the right wingers who got banned from YouTube.
Yeah, now they're moving over to something that's like Travlo or something. It looks really similar to D-Live. It's almost like a clone.
I think that actually might be the Streamlab one, which means they probably won't exist there for long, because I don't think Streamlab wants the problems. If we're on the same page and talking about the same platform. But Streamlabs recently launched their very own live streaming platform, and the name you just said is making me think of that one. I can't remember that one's name though, but it sounds something like that. It's too bad BitChute doesn't have a live streaming apparatus built into their platform, because otherwise they'd be right home there. They won't have to worry about getting banned off BitChute.
Yeah, BitChute's like barely functional as is. Like you hit play on a video and it just like buffers for God knows. It's like having dial-up internet again.
True story. Someone who got arrested by the FBI had posted a video on YouTube that was mentioned in his little I'm having a mental block right now, the little rap sheet or the whatever
charging document.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
And a specific video where he calls for senators to be killed is mentioned in there, and I went to go find this video, and it was deleted from BitChute. But me being the genius that I am, I just searched for the title on Google, and Google had cached the page. Now, usually, that does not work for video, but BitChute is so badly coded that pulling up Google's cached version of the deleted page pulled up the video. The video worked, so I pulled the video, and I watched it, and I pulled it intending to share it because I thought it would be interesting. But I decided not to after watching the video, because it is truly an example of something that should not be seen by anyone, honestly. It is a bad one. It is because I pulled a bunch of Parler stuff, and I assumed it was going to be like that, where see what people got themselves into, at the Capitol. So I assume this guy went on some rant while walking with his buddies to the Capitol or something. No, he's just in his room looking at the camera, saying some pretty crazy shit. So it's best I keep that tucked away in the old Matt Binder archives on the computer here.
Yeah, instead of sharing it with the general public, Matt instead watches that video every night before he goes to bed.
Right. That's what it actually gets me to sleep because it's
It's
so.
it's like an ASMR thing.
Right. I'm so desensitized by this stuff now that it actually puts me to sleep. Yeah.
I am past the point of desensitization. Is like, like for the last couple of years, especially, I just take this like purely clinical approach. Like I look at extremism the same way a doctor might look at like a stab wound, where I'm like, okay, so the person's like screaming on the hospital bed. I'm like, all right, so I'm thinking we probably take this one into surgery, and it's weird, right? It like your brain's not supposed to do that, but it's my job. It's my job to do it, I guess.
Right. So let's get to that. Well, actually, for the people watching on the YouTube, we should quickly mention that they're all talking about
my video.
I said, don't worry about it, buddy. It'll be no big deal. Jared's obviously having webcam issues. It's okay. We'll power through. Everything else is fine. You could see him. That's what's important. I said it was like my description of it was like film noir meets like late 60s hippie tie-dye situation going on there.
Yeah, what happened was this webcam, it's like a webcam with a ring light around it, and I really wanted one, but it was like the beginning of quarantine, and every webcam on the internet seemingly was sold out, like every webcam that was like worth anything. And so I had to go to eBay, and then like half of the ring light has burned out. Apparently now it's like a retro 60s cyberpunk or something, but like so
yeah.
I'm thinking of new webcams in the future soon.
I would say that was a good well, don't worry. I decided to be lazy today, not set up the green screen. So there's just me and my closet with the white walls behind me, so don't worry about it. Anyway, let's get to
This is the people show. This is a show of the people, man.
Right. I mean, we got a lot of people in the chats just lighting on fire with all the but a lot of chats. But if you want me to see your stuff, because it's going too fast, drop that drop those super chats.
Shameless, right. Matt. Shameless.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, let's get to the why I had you on the show today. Now today was Joe Biden's inauguration. And
the day that Joe Biden finally became president.
Right. I mean, literally. Yeah. Right. I did not watch much of it, partially because today was the first day my son was home from school because there is a COVID outbreak in his school, so everyone's home now. So that wasn't fun. I mean, it's fun being with my son, but not fun to juggle work and the 1.5-year-old running around and him trying to do his Zoom kindergarten homework stuff. But anyway, so I didn't watch much of it, but also I find the whole thing, I know I wanted to, it's good to give people a day to just take it in and be happy, because that was the overwhelming feeling, at least in the what I was seeing on Twitter and elsewhere. But I also I'm not a big fan of that feeling towards politicians in general. So inauguration day.
Same.
Inauguration day is not my thing. I don't need the pomp and circumstances around these people, to be quite frank.
Yeah, I'm the same way, like I think it's pretty unquestionable that a Biden administration will be a healthier administration. They won't be trying to pull off these like craven acts of cruelty on a regular basis. But I'm the same way, we elect political leaders, and if you're going to hold public power, especially that much power in the U.S., they deserve to be scrutinized to the furthest extent. It's when you become sort of, I just Like I would never want to be like feel like I was just a lapdog for a politician or something.
Right.
Because politicians are just kind of weird people to begin with.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And my worry about this is, again, up top, just like you said, I think it's a good addendum to make, because without a doubt, a Joe Biden administration preferable by all stretches of the imagination to a Trump administration. But I do worry about what we're seeing or what we're going to see. I mean, we already saw it with how the mainstream media and the mainstream press was covering the inauguration. Like, the whole thing again is over the top, and it's just a show. But the whole oh, thank God, like they couldn't even contain themselves, and it's like, come on, like it's a
Yeah,
little
rein
bit.
it back, man. I mean, because like part of the way to get past this moment and try to move forward is that um, people are going to have to regain at least some level of trust in institution, right? Because you can't fix a system or you can't like make progress in a system that you're like not acknowledging exist, right? And it's one thing if you say you want to change the system, you want to change the way we do things, totally valid, but you have to like figure out a way to get there, right? Um, and part of that is going to be trying to build up that public trust. And when you have like, I think it was on CNN today, Van Jones like crying at the side of the Biden inauguration. It's like, awesome, dude. Conservatives just think like everything they already thought about CNN, and especially cable news. Like the main channels are just kind of talking in circles to the people that already agree with them. So it's
Right, and the conversations are never about the, like, it's one thing to cover it and be like, what the Trump administration did was horrible, and get into actual policies and being like, hopefully there'll be a turn with this new administration, but it's not even that. It's just like the Trump administration was mean to us, and now we're returning back to normal. The normal, like, it's just this. It's just so. It's like, it's gross. It's honestly like I get sort of really concerned about what it's, because I remember the Obama years and how anyone who questioned, for example, drone strikes was automatically pilloried by the Obama fan club, and then all of a sudden Trump gets into power, and these people who hated who were defending a lot of this stuff under the Obama administration are now all of a sudden the biggest advocates of the who against Trump. You know what I mean? How many people who had Antifa in their Twitter bios during the Trump administration because they consider themselves to be anti-fascist are going to to espouse those same beliefs when, or if or when the Biden administration does something that is not good, or and horrendous, because hopefully it doesn't happen. But if they're returning to normal, which they look at to be as the Obama administration, there's some really shitty and gross things that happened under the Obama administration.
yeah, and like ultimately what that boils down to is just taking a moment to reflect and think about what your values are, and going forward based on your values, not on a fan club. We have as people who share progressive views, we have spent a lot of time just like ridiculing the Charlie Kirks of the world who are like, Trump got COVID, but that is freaking awesome, dude. And like, we make fun of people like that. So don't be like that. Don't be one of those people.
Right, right.
Just because your politician is like objectively better, the bar was kind of on the floor, guys.
Right. Now let's talk about those really cute Bernie Sanders mittens.
Oh yeah. Oh man. We love you, Bernie. Come on the show, Bernie.
But it is, I feel the same way about Bernie. Obviously, I've criticized when I think Bernie is wrong, but at the same time, it does get frustrating when all politicians are politicians, but you got one who is closest to being a normal human being, and all these people who are fan clubs of the Democratic administration seem to dislike the one the one guy on their side who's most like a normal human being. It's pretty incredible sometimes.
Yeah, but believe in causes, not politicians. That's
Absolutely.
where I'll leave that.
Absolutely. Now, I didn't bring you on the show, Jared, just to talk about
Just
the
just to lecture people about their political
right,
activity.
right, or to talk about the Biden administration, because to have someone who tracks the right wing and extremism, having you on to talk about the current Democratic administration doesn't make much sense. Well, maybe in some ways it will. Who knows?
I,
But
I I hope it doesn't.
right. Who knows?
you know.
Who knows? All of a sudden, there'll be a. I'm sure. I'm sure this will actually be an issue. I'm sure. A Modi fan club behind Harris.
Don't manifest things, man. You can't just say stuff like that.
I mean,
A few years ago, I cracked a joke. I want to say maybe it was like on this show, about how like the conservative answer to the squad is just going to be like QAnon moms, and then it happened. Now we have like Marjorie Taylor Greene and
Lauren Boebert.
I feel a sense of guilt, like I made that happen for some reason.
Right? No, you didn't make it happen. You didn't make.
I-
You didn't make it happen. No, I would say you predicted it, much like I predicted my nearly flawless electoral college map.
All right, right-wing politics, right-wing.
Right. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
So today was a big day, not only for the Democratic Party and Democrats, but for the QAnon folks as well. Now, Jared, what was the belief going in today? Because it seems like QAnon kept kicking the can down the street, whatever the phrase is, and kept pushing back the big day in which Donald Trump was going to mass arrest all of his political enemies who were part of the cabal of satanic cannibals running the child trafficking ring all around the globe. And also, obviously, because that would happen, he would be reelected in some way or another, because, Biden can't run the country from behind a jail cell. But what was the thought process going into today, as it seemed to be the one last day where Trump would have any power to pull these things off?
Yeah, so in the run up to inauguration, really since the 6th, when there was the attack on the Capitol, people who believe in QAnon, I am the proud member of like a handful of QAnon group chats. What's up? Shout out to to those guys. But there was this kind of belief that at some point before or during the inauguration that the storm was finally going to come. And they predicted that the storm was going to come for like 3 years now, right? But they just keep pushing it off. And every single time it was, the same old excuse, right? It's, well, this isn't public. The mainstream media would never acknowledge this. Oh, Trump's in control. Sometimes disinformation is necessary. Sometimes, there was like all this like excuse after excuse after excuse for why none of this had happened yet. But after the Electoral College vote was certified by Congress, I got the sense that a lot of these communities started feeling like the clock was ticking. So they did what they always do, which is say, point to the next major national event and say, that's it. That's when it's going to happen. Trump's in control. He's going to arrest Biden. That perimeter around the Capitol in the National Mall in downtown D.C., that's not to keep people out. That's to keep people in. They're going to arrest them, It's just, I mean, shit like that, man. It's so hard to talk about it without just like laughing at the absurdity of it.
I saw one, not just one, but it was a few like this. But I saw one specific one that stayed with me. That was basically the guy or girl. It's unclear. It was an anonymous poster. And they were trying to come to terms with, why would there be 25,000 National Guardsmen down on Inauguration Day? Why would Trump have sent them there if it wasn't to go after all the people who are going to be arrested in the mass the mass arrests? It's like they didn't even consider that. storming of the Capitol. National Guard goes down there directly after because of that. What? Why wouldn't they like this? They didn't even connect to them. They
Yeah,
were
they did like for all the right wing conspiracy theorists that were like, wow, what do you think all this military presence is like? Oh, we have a green zone and a red zone on the National Mall. Well, something big must be up. And it's like, no, the big thing already happened, guys. Do you remember that? Remember the Q shaman in Congress? Like that was one of your guys. Remember
right,
that?
right. And
But obviously, nothing happened during the inauguration.
well, that's just
Yeah.
because the storm got slightly delayed. It made a wrong turn at Albuquerque, and
Well, obviously, the military, the plan to arrest Joe Biden became too public. Too public, It's and the truth is that he was already arrested. They were all arrested, but they're under house arrest, and they're just doing a show to maintain a sense of normalcy while Trump executes the real plan. Blah 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 blah.
and we should point out to listeners here that while what you said is very funny, you're not joking. That's actually one of the let me call it current storylines in QAnon canon as to what's going on right now. There's some other really fun ones. Would you like to go through? When by fun, I mean completely batshit off the walls crazy. Would you like to go through some of the current beliefs from the QAnon world? Because I think a lot of people saw all the screenshots floating around today, and I know you sent one, and it was very interesting. But a lot of the screenshots going around today were from the few QAnon people in like Telegram groups and on various right-wing forums and platforms, basically saying like, "What the hell? Nothing happened. Oh no, am I the one who was wrong? I'm gonna be a laughingstock to my family." That was obviously a funny element that existed. But from what I saw, and that's really why I didn't really post any. I mean, I did retweet yours because it was very funny, but I didn't really post any myself because honestly, from what I was seeing, that really wasn't the main thought going through QAnon. Like there wasn't one specific angle that they've all coalesced around yet, but the people who were, or at least seem to have been coming to terms with the whole thing being bullshit somewhat, that really didn't seem to be that strong or prevalent of one of those many angles.
It was really disruptive and shook it up. What remains to be seen over the next coming days is how much QAnon can piece itself back together, which is something that it does all the time. It's a insulated media circuit. The people that get their news from the QAnon Telegram channel, they don't get their news from, other places. It's all QAnon stuff because they think those are the only sources telling the truth. So, as the day went on, I kind of was seeing, the early signs of that, there's like a big effort to try to keep people huddled in together. I definitely think that this will shake a lot of people off the movement. I think that's for sure. And also one of the main QAnon boards on 8chan, which was like the watering hole, Travis View from QAnon Anonymous tweeted out that all the posts had been deleted there. So it's one of those things where
it's back up. It's back up.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, it was an
admin I didn't think Jim Watkins would let that go on too long.
Yeah, it was an admin gone rogue, and they removed him, and they got the board back up. And last I checked, all the old posts were missing, but there was a message from Watkins that I saw where he stated something like, give it a little while. They're working on getting the old archives back up. I disagree with you a little bit, actually. Not really. It's not really a disagreement, but I have a different sort of outlook. There obviously will be some people who fall out of it because of this. I don't think it'll be that significant, or as significant as maybe you just said.
Well, I think it'll be more significant than like prior instances of failed prophecy in QAnon. But I don't think it's the end of QAnon. It's like all the reporters I talked to today who called me that were like, "What's going on? What's with the QAnon stuff?" I was just like, please do not put a headline out there that's like QAnon is dead. You know,
Right.
it's far from it. It's probably going to keep lasting for years and years, and there's probably going to be people that believe that till they die, right? Um, but also, kind of another thing I want to point out here is that when people leave these online spaces, you know, we don't see them leave. They're just not there anymore. So if you're looking for really clear signs of people actually exiting, it can be a little murky. That's one of the weaknesses of digital research, is that, all you have is like metrics to look at, and those metrics aren't always reflective of like, okay, there's 20,000 people on this QAnon Telegram group. How many people actually post? How many people are checking it every day? How many people, this is all they have on Telegram, and if they left, they just delete the Telegram app without, exiting the channel. So it's a bit hard to like really gauge, but I think we'll have a better idea exactly what this holds for QAnon in the next, probably by the end of the week, really.
Now, one thing that to me has made this more challenging is when specifically when I mean more challenging, what I'm talking about tracking this stuff and monitoring what's going on in the not only the QAnon world but in the right wing sphere in general. Is I know a lot of people are happy that these various groups and movements have been deplatformed, and obviously, in a sense, it is good that they won't be able to recruit on mainstream platforms as openly and as in your face as they previously have. I mean, they're obviously still on these platforms, just in different ways. But the most hardcore advocates for QAnon or various different right wing movements have been sort of pushed into various places, and they haven't really all decided on one. Like previously, you could look on Facebook, Twitter, and monitor a few of these, right-wing channels on maybe Telegram or Discord, and sort of get an overwhelming, an overlook of sort of what's going on in that world. But now it is so fractured. At least in my opinion, that I'm actually finding it to be a little bit overwhelming to monitor all this stuff, because it is we're talking like, I'm off the top of my head, there's like 20 different right-wing platforms that I'm currently looking at, and these are just the public like social media, like new right-wing social media or like video platforms where basically they're open to the public, anyone could see this stuff, you just have to go see it, and you just have to go to that site and see it. But then there's like dozens and dozens and dozens, maybe even a few hundred, I don't know. These are the ones where I'm still trying to track down, because I'm sure there's more out there that I don't even have on my little list here of different like Telegram groups and Discord channels and various private networks where these guys are now acting just how they acted on Twitter and Facebook, disseminating this stuff, talking about the latest conspiracy or talking about the latest action, if you're talking about the non-conspiracy theorists, Proud Boys, for example. What is your take on the state of things when it comes to the online world of the broader right-wing movements?
It is just total chaos right now. Like you said, that's what I'm seeing too. These different extremist groups, individuals, and figures in the community that's built all around them is getting kicked to the curb in a lot of places. Parler is down. Gab is dog shit. It is impossible to use and barely functional. So there's not really a consensus on like the next big thing. And any time that there's too big of a migration to one of these smaller platforms, there's so many people scurried out there that it often overwhelms the platform. And especially if it's something like militia groups or something like that, a lot of these platforms don't want to be associated with that. So, they eventually give them the boot too. But a lot of these figures and individuals did anticipate a day like this would come for them. So a lot of them sort of had contingencies or backup accounts, and something that I got in a pretty good practice of doing is whenever there was a character on some larger platform that I was already sort of keeping tabs on, if they posted anything that's like, you know, I also made a profile on I don't D Live, for example, then I would just take note of that and, file it under like will probably go here at some point. So, you know, because I was working under the assumption that like this anticipation that they were going to get kicked off the larger platforms was like probably pretty fair given some of the content they're putting out. Um, so when they made the backup plan, so did I. And I'm,
Ooh, trust
really,
Jared's plan.
I'm really patting myself on the back for that. It was a huge pain in the ass, so I'm glad, I'm glad it paid off.
Oh, you had a nice little that was smart, man. I basically just have a when it all went down. I basically it was like opening all of the various right wing platforms that I've had in a bookmark like folder, all in like one window in multi tabs, and I was like signing up on each one in a row. Now let me. What was I gonna say? All right, so let me ask you this. What what would you do if you knew someone? Because I'm sure there's listeners to this show who are going to be in this category. What would you do if you knew someone who was into QAnon, and this is all happening, and you see them possibly questioning their faith in Q? Now, to me, that is the first step. You're never going to be able to break through to any of these people unless they first take the initiative.
Right. You're never going to convince them on the evidence.
Right. So now is probably the time where it's going to be the peak. There'll probably be people might think, down the line. No, I think that if they're into Q weeks down the line, months down the line at this point from today, they're probably too far gone, and it'll take something really personal happening to them in their individual life to snap out of it in some way, shape, or form. But to me, this is peak moment. You're never gonna have another opportunity to talk to someone who's questioning this stuff. What do you think? And if you agree with that, what would you do?
I do agree with that. And something about QAnon is like as funny as it is to, that people actually believe this stuff, especially some of the crazier stuff. I mean, like, it's almost impossible to say it without laughing. It's so absurd. But as funny as it is, the rise of QAnon and how many people, got duped by this lie, it's also really sad, right? Because, behind all, that group chat thing that I posted in a screenshot today on Twitter, I think there's like 4 profiles displayed, and presumably there's 4 people that have friends, that have families, that have jobs, that belong to communities, who, they're people, right? And I think that it's going to be a huge effort, and it's probably going to be damn hard. But I think it's important to, if you know somebody like that who is questioning it, to try to approach them from a place of compassion, right? I don't think further alienating these people it does any good. I also, with some pretty rare but equally extreme exceptions, my time covering QAnon, going to different rallies and stuff, they have these sort of, violent fantasies for what they want to happen on the grand scale. But, I never felt in danger in any shape or form the same way that I, would feel in danger sometimes covering white supremacist rallies or neo-Nazi rallies and stuff. So
I'm really happy you brought this up, because I think, and I brought this up last week, and because I've seen so much of this online of people just throwing all those people who were watching what went down at the Capitol, throwing everyone who was down there into the same sort of category. They're all part of the same group. And now listen, I'm not saying you feel bad for these people. I'm not saying you show, you feel for them, and you don't have to feel empathy for them if you don't want to, whatever. If that's not, that's fine. I don't really care about that. But the situation down there, you sort of have to understand if you really want to break down what happened, and hope that the work is done, that this sort of stuff never happens again. You have to understand the differences between everyone who is down there. Like, you don't want to send some guy who was duped into believing QAnon put them in the same category as, like, I don't know, a militia member who went down there as part of a group in the full gear, ready to take action, knew what they were going to do. They were like, they were down for the whatever they had planned or whatever, and then this QAnon guy's there, just go, my president told me to go here and I'm trusting the plan. To me, you have to understand the differences between those two if you ever want to actually fight these sort of right-wing ideologies and movements. I mean,
if any sort of like long-term way to combat this requires understanding the nuances, and that's something I try to share, I guess. That's something you and I both have developed, but it's my hope that will become sort of wider practice. So as far as what I would, say to do, these situations are really delicate. You probably won't be able to do it by yourself. But where I have heard, this is secondhand, is that, kind of a successful way to do this is to first try to determine what QAnon means to somebody. People I've talked to through the years on the ground at these different QAnon events and stuff, Q isn't just like stuff they find on the internet that they think is really interesting. It ends up being like a very personal thing in a lot of instances. Some people connect it to their faith. Some people enjoy the community that they find in it. Some people think that this is, something they can do and participate in that is going to bring a lot of good in the world. And those are all fair intentions, right? But they've been duped by just insidious, disgusting people into believing these really toxic and outlandish things that end up just disconnecting them from reality. And then once they're disconnected, these same, pieces of shit just extract money out of them. Right. It's a really disgusting thing. So
the situation is really sad, and you have to, like you said, there are people who are grifting off of this, or the true believers who actually would like to, set up a white nationalist state. And we're going to see that. There's been lots of evidence out there, and there's been articles written about how white supremacist groups are looking at the QAnon fallout as an opportunity to further radicalize some of these people into more serious, really, white nationalist, white supremacist, neo-Nazi ideology. And that's, to me, where the real danger is. It's easy to throw those people in the same group as those more serious movements. But the fact is, a lot of those people don't even really get, like, they're not even that political to understand what they're doing in a lot of instances.
Yeah, so, here's the Jared Holt method, right? Step 1, determine if there's a violent risk. Don't get yourself killed doing this. Don't, if somebody is on the edge, if they're using a lot of violent rhetoric, make your own decisions, but, make sure it's safe to breach this. The second thing I would say is identify what role the conspiracy theory plays in their life. Just because QAnon is not just like some stupid claim on the internet that you can debunk and like go, aha, there you go. See, it's not true. It is a movement. It has a lot of different factions and like splinters off into it. So pick that out. And then, just be patient, try to, if this is somebody who just really thinks that they're doing something to help the world, maybe, you and them go volunteer at a food bank or something, and you show them that there's other ways to do good that don't involve, this weird stuff on the internet. that helps their neighbors. Something, stuff like that. That's kind of at least from what I've heard and my experiences with the people who genuinely believe this stuff, what I think would probably make the longest lasting difference, because you're never going to debate them and win that, convincing them that Q isn't real. You're not going to probably even convince them that like Trump sucks or whatever, right? Uh, I think kind of the most productive thing to like get these people who are members of families, members of communities, people with jobs, like back into a more healthy social situation and personal situation, is to like figure out where that energy is coming from and direct it towards something that is more positive.
Right. Jared, that was very well put. I think that is the way. And like you mentioned up top, while there are, you said you met some Q people at a Trump rally and you didn't feel like you were in danger, but then you also added how be careful. There are varying, obviously, people who believe in Q, and there have been some murders committed in the name of QAnon believers, uh, interpreting the QAnon conspiracies in their own way that led them down that path. So, yeah, for the most part, it does seem like QAnon people just talk a big talk and don't actually end up carrying through. But there are various examples which you should be aware of, so you can be careful.
Yeah, every situation's going to be a little different. Extremism exists on a spectrum, so throughout all of that, trust your gut.
Right. Now, Jad, let's get to a few. You have a few minutes for a few questions that were sent here in the super chats.
Yeah, I've always got a few minutes for the doomed listeners.
Ah, look at that.
It's a great show, man. The audience here gets it.
Why, thank you. Oh man, just real. You're really buttering them up for that good old shit post plug coming up in a little bit, aren't you?
No, I got something different. My dog has an Instagram now. That's the new plug.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So first question is from Midnight Pizza Man with the super chat. Uh, this is the question. Okay, Matt, have you shown Jared your huge map? I think you've seen the map, right? The Electoral College map, Jared?
The Electoral College map, the most accurate electoral prediction that happened in 2020 was your beloved host, Matt Bender.
I think it was, to be quite honest. I know you're being maybe a little bit facetious, but I don't think anyone else had it.
No, yours was the closest I saw. You got like one state wrong, right?
One state. I even got the Nebraska and Maine, those single electoral votes right. Fucking Georgia, man. But then I vindicated myself by calling the Georgia Senate race the day before. I said, no question about it, Warnock and Ossoff are winning. And everyone was doubting me that night. They were, because I did a live stream that night, and they were once again the same. I'll never forget the election night. People on my stream when I was doing that night were like, Matt, what's going on, man? Your map is totally wrong. Because at that time, if you remember, it looked like Trump might have pulled it off. And I was like, everyone, calm down. You're not thinking correctly. You're all worried. There's going to be the votes that come in. They're all going to be for Biden, and the world's going to be okay. Listen, you guys, I have an inside source at the Dominion voting systems who are letting me know that
no, Matt, I'm gonna stop you right there, because Dominion's suing a ton of people right now. I don't think it's like a good time to joke about that. Legal disclaimer: Jared Holt had no participation in the statements of Matthew Bender. All right, we can keep going now.
I think everyone knows I'm joking. I have no connections anywhere, to be honest. If I did, I would certainly use them in a better way. Let's go to another question here. We got I think this is to you, Jared, because I don't know. Oh wait, no, this is to me. I'm sorry. I was misreading the this is to me directly, I think. Maybe I'll grab this on the second half. I'll stick with the questions that are for both of us here. Let's see. Okay, Frederickson with a $10 super chat. Thank you, buddy. Says, do you think that it will at least slow down the growth or make it harder for people to get in? Now, I'm not sure what the context is here. I'm going to assume they're talking about
Probably like how scattered all these
Right.
alternative platforms are.
Yes, that's yeah, right. So what do you think,
I-
Jared?
If that's not what you mean, please jump in the chat and correct us. But I'm going to answer that off the assumption, since that's where the conversation was. So deplatforming has sort of like it's like a two-edged thing, right? The first edge, which is a much sharper edge, in my opinion, is that deplatforming has a very disruptive quality to it. These figures or these groups, and also all the communities built around it. There's people in the comments, people in the chats, whatever. Um, they suddenly lose a place to go online. So they scatter. And when they scatter, some of them are never going to come back. Some of them, are just going to find something else because they don't want to download some weird, sketchy thing on their phone, right? Um, that being said, whenever that happens, the ones that do the jump, can often become a little bit hardened, in their beliefs. So, especially in these, weirder right-wing swamps, right, where they've been told by everybody from the president to members of Congress that big tech is out to get Trump voters and systemically censor conservatives straight off the internet. They'll jump to something like Parler, and like you bet your ass they think that's true now, so it comes with consequences, but I think at the end of the day the deplatforming stuff does really screw things up for these groups. Eventually they will gather again in another little spot. There's probably some web developer out there that sees money bags dangling in front of him if he can just put it together and like get a good set of lawyers. But at least for the time being, I think the deplatforming honestly probably helped a lot, uh, in particular to the safety situation of today's inauguration,
Right.
because they weren't able to like really put anything together as far as like an event or a plan because everybody's everywhere.
Right. Yeah, I have mixed feelings on deplatforming in general. I think there are instances. First of all, I'm not going to die on any hill of defending any of these guys, but at
Yeah,
the same
it
time,
and I also sorry man, I'm going to jump in and just add one more thing just to make my
no, go ahead.
sort of thoughts about it super clear. I look at deplatforming as like that's like when by the time you get there, that's like pulling the fire alarm. That is because like all other options have been exhausted. I don't think it should just be something that's done lightly. It should be done for the right reasons, but when it comes to like unlawful militia groups or white supremacists or neo-Nazis, whatever, like I feel like that's a fire alarm situation, right? So, you know,
Right.
so I'll throw it back to you. I just wanted to like make that clear.
No, definitely. I think it's like an easy solution a lot of the time. It's just kick these people off. And there are plenty of instances I think where the platforms had a good reason to kick off certain individuals. I don't know how I feel about the sweeping removal of a certain type of content. At the same time, though, everyone hears a lot about, QAnon banned from Twitter and Facebook. But the reality is basically just if you are a QAnon account or something like that, you're banned from these platforms. Like if you are just there to disseminate these QAnon conspiracies all day, every day, that is your purpose there, then you'll be, that's when your account will run into trouble. But if you're just like conservative Joe Schmo who posts just like regular shit and also shares these conspiracies that you come across online, you don't have to worry about your account being taken down. Like you can go on Twitter and Facebook and find plenty of QAnon stuff. It's just not coming from like people there to be QAnon influencers.
Right.
Um, yeah, I don't know how it's a really tricky situation. These companies obviously have full rights to do what they do. At the same time, it is worrisome that they're able to do this stuff. Just remove swaths of users off their platforms. At the same time, not gonna die on a hill for neo Nazis or right wing conspiracy theorists. But also, I think the real issue that's at hand here is just the overwhelming power a few of these platforms have. Like, you shouldn't, obviously this is part of their whole talking point, so they could push forward their agenda here, where like getting booted off Facebook and Twitter is like my freedom of speech is being taken away, and that's not true. But at the same time, I'm sure it feels that way to a lot of them because there's not many options, and that's because anytime a new platform comes along, the main players, Google, Facebook, Amazon, do everything in their power to make sure that any threat to their monopoly is quickly taken down, whether they make their algorithm or platform so where you can't share certain things that would help boost that new platform, or they just come out and just give those new platforms an offer they can't refuse, a la, Instagram, who else? Periscope. I don't know. There's like a number of different instances I can't even think off the top of my head right now. And there you go. You have a consolidation of all these different tech companies that provide these sort of social media platforms. And then you come down to the fact that you get booted from Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and there you can't post pictures anywhere really. You can't post videos anywhere really. You can't post text anywhere really. Well, not anywhere that's going to be seen by a mass amount of people. And
Right.
obviously there's no right to an audience. But, this just, again, like you said, getting booted from these platforms feeds into their whole belief system anyway. And the fact that there's no alternatives for them to go to, it's just, it's just a big old mess.
Yeah, it's a very powerful tool. It's a very powerful action to take. But to deploy the cliche, with great power comes great responsibility, blah blah blah. Um, it's I want to kind of dissuade people from thinking that it's like a magic bullet solution that's gonna like, boom, extremism's over, problem solved, we banned them. It just changes and forces it to adapt.
Right. And just to really stress, I lose no sleep though when the Proud Boys lose their social media profile though.
Yeah. I do not care. I mean, when they get kicked off stuff, it's just like slightly more annoying for me work wise, but like I don't care.
Right.
I don't lose any sleep. I just go, oh yeah, figured that was gonna happen at some point.
Right. Oh, Fredrickson with a follow-up super chat to clarify their question from earlier. I was thinking more of Q in general. Will it be harder to onboard people who aren't already in without Trump as president? You want to go first here?
Um,
I could take it first if you want to.
I think Q specifically, like the Q posts, and for as much of the movement is just like a Trump personality cult, I think that will be a harder sell. But like we saw with the Save the Children campaign stuff last summer, the animating conspiracy theories around child trafficking, around 5G cell phone towers, vaccines, blah. I mean, there's so many different weird little theories that are under the umbrella of QAnon at this point. Those theories are likely to continue to have traction on their own. It kind of remains to be seen whether people are going to still be able to effectively recruit audiences together with Q branded content. But a store brand version of QAnon, I think, will probably continue to exist in a fairly significant way.
Right. No, that's exactly right. QAnon has taken a life of its own beyond Q, obviously, who again has not posted since like December, and has taken a life of its own without Trump. Like I know that Trump is obviously the hero in the story of QAnon. He is the person it all revolves around, but at the same time, especially this past year, when QAnon branched out into the anti-vaxxer world, into the COVID denier world, the anti-maskers, the things that got all the yoga people and the New Agers and the alternative medicine people, all those types into the movement. Those people, in a lot of instances, don't even really know the Save the Children moms, like you mentioned. Those people, in many instances, don't even know Trump is the basis for the conspiracies they believe in. They don't know the connection there. So yeah, it'll as a political movement, I think it'll struggle without Trump in charge. But as a conspiratorial movement, pushing the child trafficking rings and the the 5G chips in your COVID vaccines, I think that aspect of QAnon will be, unfortunately, just fine.
Yeah, I also think it's going to take a really aggressive anti-government angle. I can see that happening already in different extremist pockets of the internet. Switching from defense, where, QAnon was kind of a way to paint enemies as satanic evil that's like almost unspeakable, and also to, explain away every blunder and, trip and slip that Trump had. I think that's going to probably shift into a more like offensive posture, trying to find things to hit Biden with more emphasis on doing that. So, yeah, there's also like a level of anti-government extremism that I feel fairly confident saying is likely to emerge in this.
Right. Now, one more question I want to ask you, and this is perfect because this QAnon question about QAnon's future sort of took me there. What do you think is going to happen about with right wing movements under the Biden administration? Now, like in my personal view, I think there are aspects that will get worse under Biden. Not because of, I'm not saying Biden's going to come out and start, goose stepping and he's going to end up being, a further right wing extremist than Trump. What I mean is you saw a lot of these right wing reactionary movements sort of flounder once Trump came into power. Trump got them in the spotlight. They grew during the Trump campaign and felt a bit of, power in like 2017. But then as Trump continued on and just became sort of like a ineffective president who really just cared about his own sort of authoritarianship and just own basically, even at the end, just cared about his own pockets and also keeping himself and his family and friends out of jail. They sort of fell big time. They sort of lost any of the power they had in those early days. Do you think that these right-wing movements are going to regroup under Biden and once again sort of have this newfound newfound power? Will there be like new reactionary groups that sprout under the Biden administration? What's your take? And have you seen anything specifically too? That would be interesting.
Yeah, so I think that the state of right-wing extremism is probably more likely to get a little bit more organized than they were before, just because a very clear common cause exists now, which is going to be the Biden administration and Congress. I mean, it's the federal government, right? They used to like love the federal government because Trump's in control, right? But like now that he's not, it's probably going to be an enemy, especially as like, gun regulation and stuff like that, the vaccine distribution. I'm sure all of that is going to be like motivating factor for bringing different extremists together. That said, everything I've seen out of the Biden DOJ does give me some, I will say, cautious optimism that these extremist forces in the U.S. Are going to be taken seriously as a threat, which is something that the Trump administration completely neglected to do. You've got some great folks like Kristen Clark coming in there, who has all kinds of, experience personally dealing with suing Nazis like into the dirt. And also, Joe Biden said on the campaign trail multiple times that watching the aftermath of the Unite the Right white supremacist rally in Charlottesville in 2017 was the motivational factor for him to run for office. So I think it's something that this administration, assuming it follows through, and that's a big assumption. I am cautiously optimistic that the administration will try to confront this in some way. But what I really don't want to see, and what I've been trying to argue against, is like the expansion of surveillance laws or like domestic terrorist classifications. Anytime you create new tools like that, you have to imagine, like, if the worst person in the world had this tool, what would they do? And if Trump could have done that, you think he wouldn't have said Black Lives Matter was a domestic terrorist organization? Of course he would, right? So you have to do what you're able to in a way that makes sense. But luckily for the Biden DOJ, most of what a lot of stuff that these groups do is already illegal. So really, it's just if they can like really push for local, state, and federal authorities to make this a priority, I think you could actually do, take some significant actions that wind up keeping people pretty safe. So it's got my fingers crossed. Again, cautiously optimistic, but if they follow through on everything they said they're going to do, I think we'll be in a much better place.
All right, I agree with you. Cool. Let's let's talk again soon, Jared. Right? It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining me on this very special Inauguration Day episode of Doomed. Jared Holt, everyone. Oh, what am I doing? Let you drop all your plugs. Drop them all. Don't worry about just, you said you wanted to do the Pierre Instagram plug. Get them all in. You take the floor, Jared. Take as much time as you'd like.
All right. My name is Jared Holt. You can follow me on Twitter at Jared L. Holt. I write and do research for the Atlantic Council's Digital Forensic Research Lab. We do crazy shit. Like, one of our guys just like, it seems like every couple of weeks just like discovers a war crime using open source data, and it like rips my brain apart every time I see it. And I've got a podcast called Shitpost, and I already say that. But most importantly, if Doomed listeners, I'm looking you in the eyes right now. If you do one thing tonight, besides unsubscribing to Matt Binder's Patreon, I want you to go to Instagram.
That's the one thing you don't joke about the Patreon, but you could anything else. Have been fun. Follow me on Twitter, whatever. That's what the one you don't joke around.
I'm just kidding. Matt's show is great. Support it if you can.
That's my Dominion voting system lawsuit with the Patreon. That's where we don't joke.
So, but yeah, if you do one thing tonight, go to Instagram if you've got it and follow my dog at Pierre Turbo, PIERRETURBO. It's puppy content. Can't go wrong. And yeah.
What's the grift there, Jared? You want everyone to go join your dog's Instagram, and then what? What is Pierre gonna disseminate the latest QAnon conspiracies to them? What's going on? What's the play here?
I don't know what the play is. I just kind of came out of the bathroom one night, and my fiance told me that our puppy has an Instagram now. So that's the play. But I guess maybe the grand scheme picture is make him a influencer and like don't spend my life savings on toys and stuff for him like I do currently.
Ah, right. So how many followers up to right now? What are we at?
Oh, I think it's like 250 something.
Ooh, got a long way to go before he's influencer.
You got it. I mean, yeah. I'm calling on the Doomed audience. Give me the Binder bump. I need. Pierre needs this.
All right, folks. So what is that again? Pierre Turbo, you said? Pierre
Turbo. Yeah.
Is that his last name?
It's his middle name.
Oh, so he's Pierre Turbo Holt.
Yep.
Why Pierre? First of all, I gotta know why Pierre.
It just it was just a name that came up. I think it was like in a song my fiance and I were listening to, and uh, she said, "Oh, wouldn't Pierre be a cute name?" And I thought about it, and then I was like looking at the photos of him before we picked him up, uh, just as a little puppy, and we were both like, "Yeah, he's a Pierre. I think he's a Pierre." But Turbo was what I was advocating for a long time, so that became the middle name.
Nice, nice. And I'm guessing Turbo was named after the greatest holiday flick of all time, Jingle All the Way, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, where he plays, where he's after, I don't want to give away any spoilers, he's after the action figure known as Turbo Man.
That's exactly right, Matt.
You've never seen that movie, have you?
No.
You need to rectify this situation immediately, Jared. I know we're post-Christmas, and Christmas movies are the furthest from your mind, I'm sure. But you must see Jingle All the Way. It is one of my favorites, an all-time classic, Jared.
A man of taste you are, Matt Bender. It's
am.
been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure joining you for this show.
Have a good night, Jared. Talk to you soon, buddy.
Take care.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go into the second half of the show right after a short break. But before we go to that break, I'm going to tell you all to go to patreon.com/MattBinder and support this show with a small monthly subscription of $5 or more if you'd like, or less if you'd like. But I ask right now for $5. Although, and I know I've been saying this, I will be rolling out new tiers shortly, which will give you more bonus stuff. But for now, all I ask is $5, patreon.com/MattBinder. I'd really like to grow this show, and that's how I grow. Excuse me, jeez. And that's how I grow this show, by getting more people to join the Patreon, because I'm able to fund the show, take more time into doing the show, buy equipment to better the show, and that's the grift. That's the grift here, ladies and gentlemen. No, that's my play. That's my play. To grow this show and be able to give you guys more content. And going to patreon.com/MattBinder is the way that I do that. If you cannot afford to do so due to various reasons, times are tough, totally understand. Don't do it if you can't. You could support this show, though, by going to youtube.com/MattBinder and subscribing to the YouTube channel. Then you go to twitch.tv/MattBinder and subscribe to the Twitch channel. Now, I recently got invited to become a Twitch affiliate. And if I accept that, though, I can no longer multi-stream to both YouTube and Twitch at the same time, and I have to do two separate shows. I'm planning on accepting the affiliate soon, and the goal is to then do a separate Twitch show, which will, that's why, one of the reasons why I was able to afford this on-sale gaming computer that caused much controversy when I brought it up last time on this show, due to people telling me I did not spend enough money on a good gaming computer. Oh well. But that will be for the Twitch content when I get enough patrons to then do a regular Twitch show. It'll be soon. You guys will see. Very soon. So start subscribing there now, twitch.tv/MattBinder. Also, follow me on Twitter @MattBinder. Follow me on Instagram @MattBinder. Follow me wherever you're on social media. Search Matt Binder. I will undoubtedly come up. DoomedPod.com for the podcast version of this show. There are links to, well, first you can listen to the show directly on that website. There are also links to the iTunes, the Google Play. People have let me know, I should say, that Doomed is not showing up on some of their other favorite podcasting platforms. I will be rectifying that situation immediately. I don't know what happened there. But I'll be on that very soon, and in the coming day or two. I'm going to try to do it today, actually, after the show. But I see how much time I got before one of the kids wake up. What else? Tell your favorite YouTubers, podcasters about this show. Tell me about your favorite YouTubers and podcasters and journalists you want on this show. True story, I was on Zero Books YouTube show last Friday, and I was invited on this show because someone who is a fan of Zero Books and this show reached out to them and said, hey, you should talk to Matt Binder about what went down at the Capitol and QAnon and big tech deplatforming all these right-wingers after the Capitol storming went on. It works. I mean, I've had people on this show based on what you guys have recommended me. So, yeah. What else? I think that's it for now, folks. I will be on the Majority Report for my weekly Thursday spot tomorrow. If you're listening to the podcast version of the show, it might have already happened, but you can go back and catch the live stream. So I'm looking forward to talking to Jamie and Emma and Matt Leck and Brendan on the very first Thursday episode of the Majority Report under the Biden administration. And yeah, that is all for now. Stay tuned for the Patreon half of the show. Stick around if you're watching on the live stream. I'll let you stay if you're watching live for now. Even that'll be cut off eventually. But we'll keep it going for a little bit longer. And to everybody else, see you all next time on Doomed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, first of all, we're back. Welcome to the patron half of the show. I will take your questions and comments, and you know what? I will also log in to the where is it? 1 second. I will also log in to the call-in system on this show. Open up Skype on your phone or on your computer and simply type in Doomed Live _1. I don't know why it says that. I hate that _1. I gotta do something about that. But Doomed Live _1, and you can call into this show. What's going on here? I all of a sudden cannot remember the password for the call-in system. 1 second. There we go. That worked. Anyway, Doomed Live _1. And I will take your calls. But first, while we wait for that, if anyone wants to call in, I'm going to go back to the Super Chats, because there's some Super Chat questions that were directly for me. And I'm going to take those. We got Rick Soul with a Super Chat, which is just one of those cool little YouTube Super Chat stickers. It's a video game controller jumping up and down in excitement. Oh, he's very cute. Thank you for that. And we then have a Super Chat from Reykjavik. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, buddy. I really appreciate the Super Chat, though. Reykjavik. Cultural Cipher. I'm going to call you that. Cipher. How about that? Vinny Holiday with a huge $20 Super Chat. Let me get to this question. I saw you talking with Doug Lane the other day. Why do him and others like Taibbi seem resistant to the idea that so many people were radicalized by online disinformation. They seem to think it's overblown. I didn't get the sense that he had reservations about it. And I welcome that in the conversation because we had a good back and forth. I really enjoyed that conversation. And like I said on that show, it's very difficult when it comes to these sorts of platforms and their role because, again, I don't feel bad for the neo-Nazis and white supremacists getting deplatformed, but I also have reservations about big tech having such power over the internet. But there's no doubt in my mind that this whole idea of like IRL, in real life, that the internet, that used to exist on the internet, and still does obviously, but it used to be really prevalent on the internet, where what happens on the internet isn't really real life. You can just shut off the computer and step away and live your life, and it doesn't affect you at all, whatever happened online. But it's just not true anymore. The internet is real life now. It is part of your everyday. Like, you can't just shut off the computer and go around town after there's some sort of internet controversy involving yourself. It affects you in your life. There's no off button anymore. There's no shutdown option. People take what happens online offline too, more so than ever before. People need the internet for communication, for their jobs, more so than ever before. People are more connected more so than ever before. So even if you can go around, if you think you can get around this stuff by just not participating in it, someone will undoubtedly, be online and point you out or get you involved, even if it's not what you want, against your willpower there. I don't know why there's I guess they just don't believe it can happen. Or happen to the extent that it has. Again, I don't know exactly if that's his full opinion. I'm just talking about what you said. He did mention something in our conversation that we really didn't get to. It was about an hour-long conversation. There's a number of stuff we didn't touch upon, but I thought we had a really good conversation. I don't know. Maybe there's just a hesitancy to give that much power to these companies. But then why is it a problem that they monopolize the industry if they don't have the power to do this? If people aren't being radicalized by this stuff, then, what is the urgency of, antitrust? If the issue is that we put too much on the solution being the deplatforming or the response to online disinformation, I agree with that. I think that is the easy solution, but it doesn't get to the core of the issue as to why people get radicalized. And of course, that can happen offline too. You can be radicalized. And, that doesn't speak to someone being radicalized because they are feeling marginalized or they are feeling some sort of, trouble or anxiety that pushes them to find the scapegoat. And I hate the idea that people aren't radicalized because of the issues in their life. And it's usually brought up in terms of economic anxiety. And obviously, yes, a lot of these people are not the poorest of the poor, or they're not. Some of these people may even be comfortable. Some of these people may even be quite well off. But the point is that they don't perceive themselves that way. And that's what radicalizes them. I used an example the other day of, some rich or, well off, maybe not rich completely, but a well off kid graduates from college, lives at home with his parents, wants to move out, wants to find a job, but he can't because of the current economic situation. He's not missing any meals. In fact, his parents feed him quite well. He's playing video games. He's quite comfortable. He's doing whatever, going out with friends, no problem. He's feeling quite comfortable, but he gets home and he's stuck home. This is someone who can fall down some sort of radicalization rabbit hole, whether it be conspiracy theories, whether it be white supremacy, whatever. Why did he fall down that rabbit hole? Because he himself is interpreting his situation as not good. And that's what happens. It doesn't mean you have to feel bad for him or there's going to be some sort of solution where, he's obviously doesn't, money isn't the issue. It's just the current situation he's in. And that marginalization that you feel, that sort of outcast from society for some reason or another, like I said, he didn't have a social life, this hypothetical individual. But he's outcast because he's stuck at home without any out. This is what happens. A lot of these people who fall down the white supremacist rabbit hole are not like, some sort of the cliches like, some hick in a trailer park. No. Richard Spencer's not going after some hick in a trailer park, I assure you. He's going after, a middle class to upper middle class kid who can't find a job or doesn't have many friends or, whatever reason they feel personally outcast. Whether in the broader picture compared to others they actually are. It's about how they feel. That's what these sorts of groups prey on. You have, retirees who, not living high off the hog, but are comfortable where they don't have to work, who fell into the QAnon rabbit hole. And why? They're confused about whatever issue in their life they're confused about. They're concerned about the state of the world. Again, it could be for totally selfish reasons. It doesn't mean you have to feel bad for them. They could be doing better than you, but they, for some, they feel unhappy or unfulfilled or like something's missing, or they feel outcast or marginalized, and that's what gets them down there. That's what happens. That's why that happens. And, I guess the idea is that, and back to your question, just focusing on the online stuff doesn't speak to that. The problem there is a lot of those specific cases, it does come down to the individual and people in their lives taking the initiative. But there's other cases too where there are policies that can help perhaps ease some of these people's concerns and work to deprogramming them, I guess. Someone just messaged me on Skype. Feel free to call in for sure. I'm gonna let them know. Yep. Let's go back to the super chats while we wait. Cypher again. Two glaring things about policy. Missing from you say this. Okay, two glaring things about policy from today or lack thereof. Number one, Jerusalem still going to be recognized as Israeli capital. And two, not one mention about police killings. Right. Yeah. Number one, I'll get back to your question in a second. I got a caller here. You are calling into Doomed. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Logan, and I'm from Central Texas.
Hi, Logan. Welcome to the show. What would you like to talk about today?
Um, Mainly, like the difference that I've seen since Biden won the vote in the town that I live in. Um, where where I'm living now, you might remember a couple months ago, about 3 miles from where I live is where that QAnon or MAGA parade tried to run the bus off the road in Texas. Do you remember that?
I remember that, and I remember reading about it recently, where it came out that some retired sheriff, I think, uh,
Right.
who was one of the people who stormed the Capitol, and it's been uncovered that he was behind, where he organized the cars who tried to run off the Biden campaign's buses.
Right. Texas is the reason, Matt.
Good band too, by the way.
Right.
Um, but yeah, what would you go ahead talk more about
So,
what you wanted to call in?
yeah, sure. Um, so after Biden won, there had been rallies every Thursday in this town of Trump parades, just driving around with nothing to do, 20, 30 cars, flags in the back, multiple flags, fishing pole sized things to stick their flags into. I think the worst I saw was one of these trucks had like 9 flags of, Trump and don't tread on me and iron crosses and all kinds of disgusting nonsense. Um, but after Biden won, they kind of calmed down. When he officially won the vote, he kind of like they kind of calmed down.
What do they consider officially? Like,
Well, no, 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 no. What I consider officially,
okay,
not
okay, okay,
yeah,
right,
yeah.
right.
So a block from my house, there was still this one house that had a Trump flag, Trump 2020 out in front. And about a week ago, that flag disappeared.
Hmm.
Around the time of the Capitol insurrection, riot, however you want to call it, whenever that happened, that flag suddenly wasn't as palatable anymore. And a lot of that stuff kind of stopped here. And
Interesting. So the Capitol, uh, what happened at the Capitol on January 6th seems to have caused some, I guess, normie Trump supporters to reflect on their Trump support. Is what your take is from what you've seen in your town?
oh, for sure. And there are definitely some people who are holding on. There are some people around that I've seen. They actually, funnily enough, they live near the library in my town, and there are people who on that street who still have like these little. One house in particular has like a garage it literally has an iron cross like above the garage, and there's a group of people who hang out there, and that street in my mind was like, this is Trump Avenue in this town, like the don't tread on me, the come and take it. There's a guy who has a cannon in his front yard with a come and take it flag. uh,
Has anyone
but
tried to take the cannon?
I've I've personally thought about it quite a few times because I thought, what kind of legal ramifications could this be? He's asking me to take the flag. Is this theft? Or
Right,
is it, or is this just doing as he wants? I'm sure
right.
he's got cameras, so I don't want to deal with that.
I think you can argue in court that you thought it was an invitation, like you thought it was like, how people
Exactly.
put stuff in like the freebie section on Craigslist and say I've left it on the curb, come pick it up.
Right.
I
Right.
mean,
If I can find like a used couch and a cannon at the same time, I think I'll be safe.
right, yeah, you find whatever you need. Right, never have to buy anything again. There you go. So
But they, oh, go ahead, go ahead.
do you think that do you think that this is going to make these people sort of less, like, are these, from your understanding, were these people Republicans or even political before Trump, or are these people who totally have just been enamored by the cult of Trump?
No, they were definitely along along I-35, which is a major highway in Texas. I'm in a county that is one of the most red along that highway in between Austin and San Antonio. And so there were definitely a lot of Trump people already here, but everything that came out from this Trump train parade stuff, the local paper was even like, what the hell's going on with these people? So apparently, one of the people who started the push to have people line up every Thursday in their trucks and hang out in parking lots or drive through the town um, wasn't from here. He moved from California.
Right. Hmm.
So, like 3 years ago, he moved to Texas, probably for the low taxes and all the pro business stuff that a lot of people come here for. Um, but he started kind of a movement in this town that was maybe it was already here to some degree, but he really pushed a lot of people to go out and proclaim it and make it clear that they are Trump supporters and that they are Q supporters. There are actually people I've seen in this town um, who have Q stickers on their trucks in the back window. Like they're so proud about their Q belief that they are proclaiming it to the public. It's not just something that destroys their family or makes their kids not want to talk to them. They are driving around proudly saying, I am a Q supporter. And I've also seen the hashtag Save Our Children. I've seen people stand underneath overpasses in this town where, and I have no idea if this is a person who was duped into just thinking that we have to end these pedophile traffickers, which sure. There's if that's your basis for the thought process, yeah, of course we all want to end that, but th- that didn't happen until about 8 months ago. Around the time we all had to go into quarantine, that's
Right.
when stuff started up.
Right. Yeah,
And
I think a lot of people, because I think a lot of people don't quite haven't quite internalized what what COVID has done to a lot of these
mhm.
people on the right. It's really gotten them so out of, and obviously, yes, this stuff has existed well before that, but it really caused people to double down, and then it caused completely different people to seek this stuff out. And I think that there'll be many years down the road for us to really take in just what COVID has done to the people in this country. Aside from the whole fact that the actual virus itself has killed over 400,000 people in this country at this point.
it's incredible the failure of government.
Right. But of course, they look at it as the failure of government instituting the lockdowns, which by all accounts have saved literally from the original projections was like if we did nothing there'd be 2 million deaths, and then we are obviously 400,000 still a lot, but it's also not 2 million, and that's because of the lockdowns and the stay-at-home measures, and without a doubt that has saved lives. But they look at it as that's why people are all distraught. No, people are feeling distraught and struggling because the government did those measures without also providing what the other countries around the world provided to their citizens. They didn't provide them with money. They didn't provide them with food. They didn't provide them with various other institutions that can help them survive during a pandemic. They just left people to fend for themselves. Oh, they did give what, the $1,200 in the beginning, and then many months later, after arguing over how else to help, decided to send $600. And then once again, now another month or two down the line, they're now deciding that they want to give us maybe $2,000. But don't forget, we already gave you that $600. So you're really just gonna get $1,400. Just it's just a mess.
No, it's almost astounding. Like there wasn't a lot of trust that I had in government. I'm a DIY punk guy, not that different from yourself in some regards. Um, and so trusting in the government is not really something that came naturally to me, but like this is basic, basic stuff. And how do you not just give people the money they need to not go out and spread this pandemic, to spread COVID? I mean, in this town also, and it is there. I can't speak, to other states, but Texas is a very special kind of individualistic nightmare, uh, where look at our governor and our our state government is ridiculous. Um, there are businesses who are flaunting this mask law constantly, and they're
Right.
just people will walk. I have a couple cats, and even going into a place like Petco, I'll see people walk in while I'm there getting cat food or whatever, and they're not wearing a mask, and no one stops them. No employee, no manager. And I hate that I even have to like rely on some boss or some like managerial class for just human decency and like
Right.
empathy to not realize that the possibility that you are hurting other people. Like it blows my mind
Right.
constant.
Yeah, it's just shitty situation because the easiest thing would just be for everyone to care about one another and actually just wear the damn mask. The easiest thing in the world to
Right,
do. But
right.
also, it's a situation where like I feel like we are stuck with depending on these different businesses and corporations' policies because they are really the best ones to actually uh, uh, carry these policies out because we also don't want the government instituting some sort of mass federal like punishment for people who don't wear masks or something like that because then I think that would be a problem as well.
Right. No, I mean, I saw that at the beginning of lockdown, where you're at in New York, when these cops are like just like taking people down for not wearing a mask. How much easier is it to just have 50 masks on you a day and you just go, "Excuse me, sir, you need to wear a mask." And like, "Well, I'm not going to do that." Well, if you don't do that, we'll fine you or whatever the law is or whatever the whatever whatever nonsense is thrown around, but like just give them a mask.
Right.
And and most likely they'll put it on just because you're a cop standing in front of them. And like, isn't that better? Even though that's coercion, the use of authoritarian power, fine. But isn't that still better than just letting this asshole walk around, like coughing on people or breathing on people, whether they know they have it or not, and killing grandmothers and people who have compromised immune systems? It so much of this has made no sense to me. Uh, and I'm going to go soon so that you can talk to somebody else. But I've literally been in lockdown personally, a choice I made for myself. I've been in lockdown since March. Like I've purposely only touched uh, one other person twice since March,
Wow.
and the only other people that I see on a regular basis are like cashier at a grocery store or somebody at a fast food restaurant handing me garbage through a window. But I've only purposely touched my daughter, who doesn't live with me. We don't need to get into that. But I've touched her twice since March, and I see her, but I stay outside the house, and we talk through a window like I'm in prison or she's in prison. But the whole point is I don't want to take the risk of either her getting sick or passing it to her mother or to someone else, or me getting sick and doing the same thing. It's basic human empathy. And why are we in such uh, dire straits for these ideas about who we are as a people? This lack of collective involvement is, to extrapolate, is why, I really wish there was a stronger left. And why I wish there were more co-ops, and I wish there were more people willing to say, you know what, I don't need to make that much money, because maybe if I make a little less, then these people will get to have food or have housing or have health care. And all of those things, especially in Texas, are not considered to be virtues. They're considered to be some sort of wussification of the male idea. Like,
Right.
anyway, man.
I thank you.
Uh,
Thank you so much for calling in. I really appreciate it. It's a great call. Feel free to call in again in the future. I hope you
hey,
regularly listen to the show. If you
I
have
do.
any, great, awesome. Love to hear
And
it.
I'll hop on that Patreon. I'm a professor and I teach at a small school. My classes got cut back, partially due to COVID. When I get more classes and my income's a little more stable, I will be on that Patreon. And I promise you, if you cut off this YouTube live stream and the fun half of Doomed, then I will hop on a little bit sooner. So there's some,
Okay. No, but
there's
definitely,
some incentive.
either
Yeah,
way, definitely take care of yourself first. I want to stress that to anyone who is thinking about
of course.
becoming a patron or is already a patron. Make sure especially with everything going on, make sure you're okay first, and then if you got the extra, then I'll be happy to take your extra. But
Yeah. I'll give you 5 as soon as I can, Matt.
take care. I really appreciate it.
Uh, Thanks, Matt. Have a good night.
You too. All right. There was another caller who was waiting on the line. If you'd like to call back in, I'm going to reach out to that person. One second. Feel free to call in now. Here we go. Hey, what's your name and where you calling from?
Hi, this is Jade Maroon. I was Reykjavik Cultural Cipher earlier.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for
Yeah,
calling in.
good. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for taking my call.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for all the wonderful super chats.
Yeah, no problem. And I can't really afford to right this minute to do the regular thing, but I like to support in the super chats whenever I can.
Really appreciate. No, I
For,
totally get it. One-offs are, a lot easier to know how much you're spending when that's. I get it. I totally get when it comes to subscriptions. We are in a world right now, even beyond just Patreon, like Patreon. We're in a world where everything has a subscription now. That is the new thing. You can't just buy a piece of software for like 20 to $50 and take it home and own it forever.
right.
Everything's got a subscription now.
Yeah, it's subscribe to live.
Right. But that's sort of, I guess, what the current culture has wrought on us. If you want to survive, what would you prefer to do if you're some like small indie developer or podcast or whatever? Would you prefer someone
Yeah.
spending like $50 once every few years for the new version of the software or whatever, or you
Yeah.
prefer someone giving you $50 every year for the subscription? I get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So what would you like to? I'm sure you didn't call in to talk about the current state of the subscription model. What would you like to call in about today?
Well, that is the issue right now. No. No, I listened to the Majority Report and also other shows like Democracy Now! A long time and blah blah blah. But I wanted to I specifically I'm I'm from I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. And but I live now in Reykjavik. I'm back and forth kind of. My wife is Icelandic, so I do a youth. I run a youth organization here and support one in Charleston. And I've been involved with a lot of radical organizing, I guess, in my lifetime. But I've been involved with Black Lives Matter in Charleston. Like I was there when the church shooting happened. I was actually, there minutes after. And just to give you a sense, not of who I am or whatever, but I'm involved with I don't know if you've heard of a movement thing that started up after the George Floyd, called the Maroon Party for Liberation, and it's not a political party. Like it's not like a demo. It's not a new People's Party or something, some or any kind of grift or anything like that. But anyways, like and I've been part of the Universal Zulu Nation, like as I'm a hip hop enthusiast. I'm and I'm working like through the outreach part of these organizations. And there's some old Black Panther elders that are like leading sections of what I'm involved in, and some Cubs, Black Panther Cubs that I'm working with. Black Panther Cubs are basically the children of Black Panthers, and young lords also, and different things. And I called in the other day on Majority Report to inform about a political prisoner that's got COVID, and they're trying to put Russell Maroon. And just in my opinion, that there's often a lack, not by anyone's fault or anything like that, but a lot of times like these people that were like like on the front lines, in our history, like often like subconsciously or get thrown, somehow they become second thought,
Right.
and one thing that I mean, there's many things that we're doing within the Maroon Party for Liberation, which I would like to, like another time, like talk, maybe talk to you about more personally or something like that. But I just wanted to bring to attention, and I put in a question in there, and I really did, I I hardly ever watch you live because I'm on a different time schedule, 5 hours ahead. I'm just doing some work right now, so I'm working really late. So I'm actually seeing you live for one of the first times.
Oh, great. Thank you
Um,
for joining me tonight. I would love to hear it.
yeah, but I thought, that now would, maybe it'd be a good time. I posed a question in there, but I was just like, maybe just talk to you now about if you would be interested in doing a show sometime on like political prisoner aspect. I know that's not your exactly your take or whatever, but or like your bent. And if not you, then maybe if you know someone in in the progressive media, or alternative media world that would be up for it, because trying to, especially me, I'm a white maroon. We have these, we kind of, the Maroon Party for Liberation has also been blessed by like people like Mumia, some other, people that are like, within that family, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so like it's so we're having liberation schools every Monday, where we do it online through Zoom. For example, we're having like white maroon people that are like white skins, meeting together to discuss their whites, breaking down their internalized white supremacy, and all kinds of things like this,
Right.
and so, but anyways, I don't want to take up too much of the time. I want to allow others to, and it's kind of like off topic from a little bit off topic of what's you've been discussing. But I wanted, I thought you might be interested, or might be able to go
Listen,
help in that direction.
for sure, I'd definitely be interested. Why don't you reach out to me on Twitter? Are you on
I'm
Twitter?
not on Twitter, actually.
Okay,
Yeah.
why don't you reach out to me via email?
Okay.
Matt at xmatx.com.
Hold
And
on 1 second. Let me just
sure.
okay. Um, all right. I'll just I'm putting it in now. Matt
At
Matt
xmatx.com.
X Matt X.
Yes.
Okay, an X before the Matt. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So it's
X.
MATT at X, like the letter X,
Yeah.
MATT, the letter X again,
Yeah.
.com.
Okay. Cool. Cool.
I've used that as my
Yeah.
email address for really long, and it's come to the it's now come to my attention that and it's not just you, the double X's are confusing. So I'm actually gonna end up probably switching my at least my business, my public like email to something else.
Yeah.
But that works.
It's
That'll
all
still
good.
work though, regardless.
My my hearing. I'm getting old. My hearing probably
No, it's all good.
not there either. So.
And while I don't usually do guests on the majority report because the half of the show I do on the majority report is just me, Emma, Jamie, Matt, the other
Yeah.
Matt, and Brendan talking.
Yeah.
We do take calls, and you said you called into the majority report. Did you get through?
Yeah, no, actually that's one thing I would like to just maybe end on. I mean, the call was fine. I took I was just promoting because on Martin Luther King Day, Monday, there was supposed to be a rally in Pennsylvania in Harrisburg for Russell Maroon. He's 77 years old, and he was like, he's got cancer, and then he got COVID, on top of that, and like he's been in solitary confinement for 40 years. And I mean, he's written some actually, a lot of, what we're based on as the Maroon Party for Liberation is on a lot of his writings. Actually, which is produced by the AK Press. You should look it up. Um, but the really sad thing, about that is, and that was great. They promoted it, but like it had to get canceled because the police and the police there wouldn't give a permit for a peaceful demonstration for a political prisoner. And at the same time, and it was Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So I mean, like it was, for me, it was like really kind of just like a gut punch that even on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, like the white supremacists like controlled the day,
Right.
because I mean they canceled it because of security concerns, because they couldn't ensure they did they couldn't ensure the safety of the participants, even with their security, because I mean, probably nothing happened now, but I mean, there was like a scare that, there was going to be like all these militia groups, and, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania is probably not a, like great place to be, like in regards to that, so I mean, it was just like really, it was just really just like not even a gut punch, but a knife stab to the gut, like that's the state that we're at, and then yeah. But anyways, but yeah, so I called in there, but yeah, I was like, I mean, if you ever wanted to have on this, on this show, or just keep it in mind, but I'll email you, and maybe and we can like, you know discuss, we can flesh out some ideas there or something like that,
Yeah,
but
definitely. Sounds good. I really appreciate the call. I'm glad you're able to tune in live today. And yeah, definitely reach out to me via email and let's see what we can set up. We'll definitely. It sounds like something I would. I mean, I would definitely cover. So let me know. Thanks so much
yeah.
for the call. Have a good night.
All right, you too, brother. Bye. Peace.
Take care. All right, let's go back. There was another person call. Lots of callers now. Let's see. Yeah, feel free to call in. Oh, here's that caller. Let's take it. Hi, what's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Cool. Julian from New York.
Hey, Julian. What would you like to talk about today?
Also the city.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I was just sort of struck. I'm living with my parents right now. Came home after college. Uh, so since COVID, been living with my parents. And what struck me today about, like, I guess the inauguration was how excited my mom was compared to just sort of a general apathetic feeling that I had regarding, like, Biden being the president.
Yeah.
And just sort of, I don't know, because it does seem like some good stuff is going to come out of Biden being president, right? And it's obviously better than Trump being president. And like
Right.
he's already signed a bunch of stuff that's mostly just rollbacks, right? Of kind of stuff the Trump administration did.
Right. Which is good. It's good.
For sure, for
It's
sure.
you can't base your everything you do off that, but for a first day, I'm impressed. He did, more than maybe some were ready to give him credit for. It definitely seems like, and it's shocking to me because it's Joe Biden we're talking about, but it also shows you just how much things have changed in this country. He will be probably the most left-wing president in modern times. Obviously, that bar is very low. I'm not saying
Right.
he's going to be a left-wing president. I'm saying he's going to be the most left-wing president, the furthest left. That's still probably going to be at most left of center, at most. But he's going to be more. His administration will end up being more further left than Obama's. It
Right.
seems to me so far. And
Yeah.
again, it's because of the times. Things have changed. Also, and this is where people who don't really know much about politics, and that's fine, but this is where they are not going to get what they're not going to get when they see these different groups pressure Joe Biden. And this is where we're going to get really frustrated as leftists. Joe Biden's doing this stuff because of pressure and work from left-wing activists and organizations. That's why these things are being done. That's why there's this new Joe Biden and not the old Joe Biden. Kudos to him for listening and making the move, but it wouldn't have happened without them. Now, it's not enough, and to extract further things out of Joe Biden, left-wing organizations and activists and groups are going to have to continue to criticize and agitate and put pressure on the Biden administration. And what's going to happen is people who are, and I know this is what's going to happen, this was happened during the Obama administration, people who are running around with the Joe Biden flags, saying how they could go back to brunch and everything is wonderful again, are going to fight against those left-wing groups for daring to do something combative to Joe Biden, even though that is literally how this works. That is
Right.
how things get done in this country. They're combative against Joe Biden in a way that's different with Trump or any other Republican because they're combative against Biden in a way where they're hoping he hears them, whereas they knew that wasn't a possibility under Trump or any other Republican. It's just so bizarre that these people don't get it. They really do think that their fave politician just wakes up one morning and decides to be nice or be good. It doesn't work
Right.
that way. I mean, are there good politicians out there who feel that way? Yeah, they usually come from a place where they get it. I think Bernie Sanders is one. I think AOC is one. I think Ilhan Omar is one. I think Rashida Tlaib is one. I think Cori Bush is one. I think Jamal Bowman is one. There's probably a few others I'm leaving out. No disrespect to them, but the overwhelming majority of these politicians need to be pushed, and that's just how the relationship works.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's interesting. It seems like I'm in conversations now that, like, Joe Biden is officially president, but even just sort of after the election, where it's going to kind of, where do we go from here? The conversations I've had about politics with my more liberal friends have been more confrontational than prior to Joe Biden being
What do you
kind
mean?
of
Give me an
elected.
example.
Just sort of me making comments about, like, okay, it's not, it's not like Joe Biden is president now. That's not really good enough. And him sort of the fight isn't won, that kind of thing. And just being like, why are you so negative? Can we pause for a kind of, that's a liberal trope, right? But like, can we just pause for a little bit? It's he just got elected, or
Right.
those kinds of things. And it's just like me pointing out that, like, if the politics of these certain politicians hasn't changed, like,
That's sort of why I stayed out of the inauguration stuff today. Like, I obviously,
right.
like, if you look on my Twitter, it's obviously I was paying attention, but all my tweets and stuff about it are about QAnon and the right's reaction to everything. I really didn't want to touch the other stuff today because, I mean, I'll give them their day or two to be happy, and surely it's something to, I get it. If you're someone who was truly, like, directly in the most direct ways, for example, a Muslim family who were torn apart by the Trump administration, or a immigrant family who, mom, dad, or someone in your family was deported by the Trump administration. I totally get it. This is a big day. There's a cause for celebration. You want to just take in what you can, what little bright spots you can. I get it. But at the same time, I can't do it. That's not who I am. I think, I mean, obviously you can be happy Biden is the president compared to the other alternative, which was Trump being the president, but also want to get right to work doing more. I mean, there's a way to do both, I think, and some people can't do both, though.
Yeah. I almost feel bad. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, sort of, what you're saying a little bit, like, I almost feel bad sort of being a downer about it, or like,
Don't feel bad. I say sometimes just pick your battles. I think, today maybe just let them have it, and then a week from today, you can start, because this is what's going to happen. And I'm probably going to go on about this more in a separate video or something, but this is going to be the moment where the rifts, there will be rifts on the left. Like, everyone's talking about, oh, look, QAnon's breaking up into different sects, and the right is in disarray. And I mean, obviously that's true, but that is now going to happen to, and I said the left, that's wrong, to anyone who was anti-Trump, from the left to, your normie Dems, to your, Elizabeth Warren libs. It's going to be, you're really going to see where everyone lies here, because there's no longer the uniting factor of we got to get Trump out. It is going to really cause, and it should, I think this is good, because it also, this whole everyone against Trump thing totally rolled over the left. It totally fucked the left, because the whole blue wave that everyone was looking forward to, that was a blue wave for, like, normie moderate Dems who people thought had the best chance of beating Trump, because that's what the Democratic Party was telling them. It rolled over to any sort of leftist primarying other Democrats too, and they lost their primaries. I mean, obviously there were some standouts who won, but a lot of leftists lost. I think this is going to be good. You get to see exactly who is on your side on which specific issue, who is actually just anti-Trump and doesn't actually give a shit, who is, how many, I said this before, we're talking to Jared, how many, like, people with a blue wave, one of those blue wave emojis in their Twitter profile handle, but also has, like, a Biden-Harris 2020 Twitter avatar, but then also in their bio they have, like, leftist who is Antifa. Like, are they really? are they really? Are they really anti-fascist, or are they just is their definition of a fascist solely, I should say, for someone as over the top as Trump?
Right. Or the ACAB stuff, and then with all the arrest. I mean, Yeah, but then
you saw
sort
this
of
quickly
been like,
with
go and get them.
you saw this quickly
Go
with
and get.
with the Capitol, right? Them holding up the few cops who actually stood out and did something, and obviously there was one clip of a cop I saw that he said something like, it was my honor to fight back against a white nationalist insurrection. Like, I was actually taken aback. Not every day you hear a cop talk about talk critically or negatively, I should say, about white supremacists and white nationalists. But
Yeah.
to me, that's more of that's a lot of people. Oh, what a great! That's all cops aren't bad. No, that's not a. That's actually, to me, that wasn't a message about how some cops are good. That was a message how that one guy personally is a good guy, it seems, and we should possibly, if we have a police force, there should be more of those types on. It doesn't mean like there are other cops out there like that guy. No, that was like, to me, showing what a good individual that guy was. And then you had the cop who walked Kamala Harris in to the inauguration today. The guy who led the Trump supporters through the Capitol and away from the Senate. I mean, again, sure, herald the guy, but again, that has nothing to do with his training or who he is as a cop. No, that's just a good guy decided to become a cop. It seems like, you know what I mean? Like, that is
But he's still a cop.
Right. Yes, exactly. Yeah. And, there were interviews I was reading. Obviously, they stayed anonymous, but interviews with some of the black Capitol police officers who broke down crying on January 6th after fighting off these guys, after they saw some of their white colleagues taking pictures with the MAGA guys. Like, yeah, like, now they spoke up against that contingent there, but dudes, like, this is what your colleagues have been doing to non-cop people of color. You felt hurt that they were high-fiving the people throwing shit and beating you up. I totally get that. Now imagine how the people of color felt who weren't cops, who were getting beat up on the streets by your white colleagues. Like, you got to speak out against this shit. Like if you are now aware of it, that's great. And we should, if we're going to have a police force, we should want more people like you guys on the force. But to get more people like you becoming cops, we have to get rid of your shitty colleagues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just interesting, I guess, seeing, because this is sort of the first time I voted was in 2016. So my kind of more serious political awareness has just been the Trump years, where pretty much everyone I associate with is like, we can generally agree on we can all pretty much agree on the anti-Trump thing. So like you said earlier, sort of seeing where the chips are falling now, and kind of, it's interesting. Anyway, so that was it. It was, yeah.
I think it's great that people got involved because of Trump. I think it's really great. But the problem that I have with that, and obviously this is not you, because you're obviously calling into the show, which means you've listened to the show, and that by definition means this isn't you. But there are people who now have created they got big as an influencer somehow because of how much they hated Trump, and without any sort of political knowledge and again, there's nothing wrong with wanting to become political and not knowing anything. I think that's fine. There's no barrier to entry. I love it. Come in. I'm glad to have you here. I want more people to become political. But there's a subset of people that really get under my skin who have somehow like hit the lotto, have created this huge following around just getting involved during the Trump era and creating like a personality around that, who know nothing, and they flaunt knowing nothing. And it's like so anger inducing. Like, for example, your Eric Garlands, the game theory guy on Twitter, who doesn't know shit, never talked about politics before, and during the Trump era, he became a mega online anti-Trump celebrity because he's obsessed with Russia and talking about Russia conspiracy theories. There's a big account that literally just popped up over the past year. Hundreds of thousands of subscribers tracking the right wing. And that's cool. Love to have more people doing that. But this person doesn't know any of the background before 2020, it seems, because they're pulling stuff up and putting it out there to all their followers. I don't want to put any of these people on blast quite yet. Eric Garland was fine, but this account, I want to know more about them first before I put them specifically on blast. But I'm going to use them as an example here. Putting out stuff saying, oh, look at this new thing that just came out in 2020 that the right's doing. And I was talking about that shit in like 2014. And it's like, I'm not saying like, give me the credit because I got there first. I don't care about that. What I'm saying, I'll care about that a little bit, to be truthful. But no, the idea is you can't understand this stuff fully if you don't have any sort of background into it. And, I'm not asking people to go back to, I don't know, learn everything about from America front and back from 1776 forward, every little thing. No, I'm not asking you for that. I'm not even asking you to go back to like FDR or Ronald Reagan. Obviously, it's good to have that background because I think a lot of it, especially modern politics, stems from FDR and Reagan, obviously, especially. But at least know the basis of the very modern, I would say at least go back to Barack Obama becoming president of the United States, because directly we have what's going on here, at least on the right, stemming from a blowback to the Obama administration with the Tea Party. Sarah Palin being picked as McCain's vice president. It was a huge, huge factor in Trump becoming president, in a lot of the idiots on the right we currently have in office getting elected. It's you need at least some basic background if you're going to become a influencer espousing this stuff and teaching people or telling people how to feel. Again, if you're just into politics and learning, that's great. I love it. But there's a lot of grifters right now on the left, and we're going to see who they are under a Biden administration, because they're gonna, without Trump, who are they? Well, we're gonna know.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. Thanks for taking my call, I guess.
No, thank you. I went on a tangent, but
no, it's all good. All good.
No, but listen. I'm super thrilled someone like you got into politics. And what else have you what got you into? Was it because you just were of age to vote in 2016, or you just weren't?
Yeah. That was just the first election I was even allowed to vote in. I don't know. I think I was vaguely aware of politics for a while, as a thing that matters, and we would have sort of discussions in middle school and high school. A really good quote was debating whether or not women should be able to be infantry in the army. And this sort of dates it, but one of the girls in this conversation, who was speaking in the classroom, was saying, I think they should because YOLO. I don't know if that's my first political memory, but I think just gradually sort of being politically it's more and more in the news and more in my mind. And then going to a college, bastion of communism and whatever, but
no, listen, it's who'd you vote for in 2016?
Hillary, kind of reluctantly, not like I was ever considering Trump, but I was
right. No, I voted for Bernie Sanders.
You're gonna vote
in the primaries,
sure.
And then I voted for Hillary in the general, because of course, I mean, it was the correct thing to do. I am of the belief that you deal with what you got and you pick the better of the two. And then we have to do with Biden right now. And then you push and agitate under that administration, because you weren't even going to get an ear from Trump,
for sure.
Yeah, I'm glad you got into politics, man. Good, and you should stay into it and stick with it. And I hope you call in and listen regularly. Do you listen to this show regularly?
Yeah, I know you through the Majority Report, and then I saw you had like a thing, and then I've been listening for several months. I don't know.
Awesome. How'd you find the Majority Report?
I don't honestly couldn't tell. They might have just recommended like a clip on YouTube, and then kind of went down that rabbit hole,
Nice.
and then kept watching. But yeah,
nice, awesome, man.
sometimes the algorithm works, mostly not.
Right.
But
Yeah. In rare instances, I guess you have to look for the right thing. I don't know. What were you looking for to come across the Majority Report?
Couldn't tell you.
Right.
Couldn't tell you. Anyway,
probably
take care, Matt.
Probably something completely random, though, right?
Probably.
Take care, man. Thanks for the call.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. All right. You know what? I'll take someone else tried to call in before. Call in now if you'd like to call in. And that'll be the show. One more call. I'll read any other super chats that are there, and then that's the ball game. I feel bad that last caller. He called in, and I went on that tangent. That's something I wanted to talk about, and he presented the opportunity. There's going to be grifters that their grift becomes clear once Trump is gone, who presented themselves as like leftists or at least like progressives or like liberals. Let's go. All right. If that caller doesn't call in, then I will just, for now, I'll go back to the, Oh, wait, Mariah with a super chat. Should I call and tell the story of my brother going to D.C. this week? Yeah. Especially if that was you calling in before, Mariah. You should definitely call. Hello?
Hello?
Mariah, is this you?
Yeah, it's me.
Hi, Mariah. Thank you for calling into the show.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for taking the call.
Oh, no. I saw your name pop up, and I was like, Mariah. I can't wait to get her on the phone and keep her there while another wildfire sweeps through her neighborhood.
Oh my god.
You're a little bit low on the your phone's a little bit low, and I have you all the way up on my end. So is it possible to turn the volume up on your end?
Let me put my headphones in and see if that helps.
Okay, because you sound very distant.
How about now?
What's up?
How about now?
Still a little bit quiet. Let me see if there's something I can do on my end. 1 second. Let me see. No, you're all the way up. I don't know what to say. Can you talk a bit louder?
Yeah, I can talk louder, absolutely.
Oh, wait. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I just wanted to tell a quick story. So last week, so I have an older brother who is in the National Guard, and he has been in the National Guard for like almost 15 years. And over the years, I have watched him like become more and more. He also like happens to live in like a pretty heavy like military town that's like really conservative, and so I've watched him over the years like get more and more right wing, and so we don't really talk anymore. But last week I was kind of like, I wonder if my brother went to DC. I think that'd be pretty funny, like, kind of like logical conclusion to his like spiraling.
Wait, went to DC as a National Guardsman or went to DC as a storming the Capitol guy?
Either one would have been funny to me, but obviously one is preferable. Like, I would rather have him like go there for his job than.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say you'd rather have him there storming the Capitol, but okay.
So but because I don't really talk to him, I was like reluctant to ask. But my dad, amazing. Shout out to my dad, did some recon for me and got kind of low-key got my brother on the phone while I was with my dad and put him on the speakerphone. And we did determine that my brother was one of about 400 National Guardsmen from his unit, or from his from his state, to be deployed to DC. And he was just sitting on his ass in a hotel room in DC when we talked to him. So, yeah, I don't know whether to be thankful or not, because
Wait, he went down there too on January 6th?
No, he wasn't there on January 6th. But on Monday he was there. I don't know when they actually got sent there, because he wasn't going to tell anyone in my family. Like my dad had to dig it out of him. He wasn't going to go, or he wasn't going to tell us for some reason. So anyway, but I just thought it was crazy. And then yeah, he was telling us about how there's like National Guardsmen from 13 states down there, and how none of them, like, nobody knows what they're doing. Like, there's way too many of them. They're all spread around the city, all different parts of the city. And yeah, so, but I guess
honestly, when you started your when you started telling the story, I really wasn't sure where this was gonna go. I thought it could either go he stormed the Capitol, or I was ready for you to actually be like, yeah, he was one of the 12 National Guardsmen to be removed from the inauguration because of ties to militia groups.
but here's the thing. I saw your tweets about that today, Matt. Here's the thing is that, like, even though they're, those only 12, like, oh my God, that's like, seems like so few. People like my brother, who maybe don't have like explicit, I mean, like, I don't even know. Like, my brother could be one of those 12 people, and they just haven't found him yet, because I don't personally know like what his connections are, but I know that he has those kinds of sympathies. And
right.
So it's like, that's what's so sketchy about it, is that there are probably lots more people who at least have the sympathies than there are the people who really have the explicit ties. And yeah, I really need to like find a way to get back in touch with him and like kind of smooth things over, so that I can just like spy on him a little bit. And like,
do you think he's a Q guy?
I think he might be becoming a Q guy, because
becoming a Q guy now.
Yeah, because or maybe like, yeah, it's just like Q adjacent, just like really really easily falling for shit on Facebook or whatever. Because over the summer, or right before the election, right before November election, my mom had posted something on her Facebook, and I don't even know how I ended up seeing it, because I have all of them blocked. But my brother posted a comment, and he said that like leftism is a disease, and they all need to like they need to be defeated. Like, the leftists need to be defeated, and like voting for Trump is the only way for that to happen. Like, even if you don't like Trump.
Right.
Because my brother is like not. He's like always been like a libertarian. He was always trying to get me to vote for fucking Gary Johnson. Pardon my language.
No reason to pardon the language. Yeah, Gary Johnson.
Yeah, like, so it's like, not only is he, I don't know.
Is Ron Paul his hero?
Yes, I think he does like Ron Paul.
Yeah.
I think he was too young to vote when Ron Paul was running, but yeah. Bad news, man. It's listening to your show and listening to like Jared Holt, like, always kind of makes me feel like less alone, in terms of just like, how hard it is to have family like go down these paths.
Right. No, you reminded me, actually. I meant to make a call earlier on the show, but I like a call for something on the show. If anyone out there has a family member who is into QAnon, hit me up. I'm very interested in talking with you. Possibly for this show, or possibly for another project that I'm working on. It depends on everyone's situation and how much they want to really. I totally get if you don't want to, come out like Mariah is right now here and talking about it. I totally get that. But if you do,
put my brother on blast.
Yeah, but if you do, definitely reach out to me on Twitter at Matt Binder. You could DM me, or I gave my email just before to matt@xmattx.com. However you want to reach out to me, reach out to me. But thanks for the call, Mariah, and I hope you should get back in touch with your brother. I mean, that's the best way to sort of, if there's ever a chance to at least get him back down to reality, so he doesn't go into the conspiracy stuff, at the very least.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
you sort of gotta be in touch somewhat,
Yeah, it's true. And I'm glad that my dad is like the go-between between us. But yeah, anyway, I'll let you go. And to the audience, like, highly recommend calling Matt and talking to Matt about this stuff. It's great. I appreciate it.
Oh, my thank you.
Also, plug my podcast.
Oh, do it, please. Go ahead.
Un-American Activities. We're on like almost every platform now. We have like 5 episodes. We just did Crimson Tide. We did a review of Crimson Tide with Gene Hackman and Denzel Washington. Very good movie. Less good episode, but it's still entertaining.
How many people are on your podcast? How many people host?
Just me and my buddy Zach.
All right. If you guys want to do an episode of this show, we'll do like one of those movie nights I did a couple months ago.
Oh my God, that would be incredible.
Let's do that. Let's. I would have to do some technical figuring out so we can. Because last time I tried it didn't work out so well. After doing a good one with Jared, there was some issues with doing it the time after that. But let me figure that out, and then we will schedule something.
That would be awesome. Love it. And that one you did with Jared was hilarious. I loved it.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Matt.
I already said you can do it. You don't have to try to make me feel good and say how great I am to try to make sure I'm a man of my word, Mariah. If I already said it, you don't have to try to get on my good side to make sure you get what I just already promised.
No agenda. I have no agenda. Love you, Matt.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye. All right, folks. There's one more person who wants to call in. They're downloading Skype now so they can call in. I am going to read the leftover super chats. And I'm going to try to give you as much time as possible, but I think I have to end this show very shortly. So I'm going to attempt to give you to the end of these super chats. I already went for way too long. Let's see. Oh, Cypher, he called in before, but yeah, let me get to his question. Yeah, Jerusalem was always going to, oh my God, excuse me, I'm like hiccuping jeez. The incoming Democratic administration was always going to keep Jerusalem as the oh, we got that call right now. You are on the line. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, what's going on? It's Jeff from New Orleans.
Hey, Jeff. What would you like to talk about?
So I actually did want to talk about a little bit of what was going on in the chat, and also a little bit about just sort of like the general spectacle of all of this stuff with the endorsement. I mean, with the inauguration and things like that.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I wanted to like wind up a little bit by saying that I've been like a fan of the Majority Report for like many years. I've called in like once. I talked to Sam and a couple of those folks, but like it's great to see, old Matt kind of like showing up and being like doing his big things. It's really great.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, and we've actually stepped up, and a couple of folks down here in New Orleans have started a little new show called well, it's not new anymore. It's been around for a year and a half, but called Good Morning Comrade, where we have like a little radio program at the local community radio, and we have a podcast and stuff like that. So we kind of like growing a new media project. So it's great to be. That's
a good name for a show.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so a couple of folks.
I have to ask because I just looked up. I just happened while you were telling me. I looked up Good Morning Comrade, and I came across a Twitter account that has Ron Simmons as Farouk in the Nation of Domination as their avatar, and I have to ask if that's you guys.
That's us. That's at Comrade Morning. That's Robert, who's one of our co-hosts who runs that account. I don't run it, but Robert does, and he's the best.
Fantastic. Don't know anything about your show yet, but the avatar, already love it. Already great.
Ron
gotta
Simmons, one of the great wrestlers of all time. We were just like having that conversation fairly recently as well.
Nation of Domination was well before its time.
Yeah.
Vince would never pull that off now because they would do it completely wrong.
It's too real.
But a Nation of Domination now would honestly be the most over face group of all time. They would not be heels anymore. They would be.
They would be the good guys.
Over. Yes, and I would love it. I would love that. You've seen that GIF of the that like white kid in the crowd holding his fists up with the Nation of Domination.
Yeah, that's incredible.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
I guess I wanted to like jump on. I saw you because I was broadcasting with New Orleans Democratic Socialist of America. We had our own little live stream of a lot of this spectacle, and just sort of wanted to kind of pick your brain on like specifically on like where does Q go from here, and like also in terms of like organizing, like where do we go from here, especially with that in mind.
Right. QAnon is. I don't know how much of the half of the show with Jared you caught, but QAnon is not going anywhere. It's going to continue. There'll be some people who jump off the train now, but also I don't think it's going to be significant enough. I mean, it may be a significant number of people, but it won't be all that detrimental to QAnon.
Mm-hmm.
QAnon became mainstream, and it's well beyond just Trump at this point. Every one of these conspiracy theories about vaccinations and masks and the purpose of COVID and the Great Reset and all these pandemic-related conspiracies all fall under QAnon now. And
it's so apocalyptic, like the reality is apocalyptic, and the language and the way that these people talk about these things is just like apocalyptic with steroids, right?
Right. No, exactly. And there's a lot of I don't know what we do about them, to be honest. Like I've said this before. I think on Zero Books on Friday. It's up to each one of these people to come to some sort of point in their life where, like, a reflection point where they're just like, hold on a second, what's going on here? Mm-hmm. And until they come to that, I don't know how you reach them. Like, this isn't a situation where, like, you're some kid gets falls down in the white supremacist YouTube rabbit hole because they're looking for a scapegoat into why they think their life sucks. And the white supremacists give them a good scapegoat, and they're white supremacists now, but then they go out there and they look at some videos or whatever, and, oh, wait a minute, this leftist YouTuber makes a lot of sense. And again, though, even in the example I'm using, it's up to them to take the initiative. You can't force these people to leave whatever their beliefs are. But I do think QAnon is harder to leave than most of these other, even more violent, more serious groups because, white supremacists don't need to make up the Jewish people. They don't have to make up, black people. Like, those are people that exist. But QAnon has, yes, they use real living people, but versions of them that like are not even like realistic, like
caricatures, almost entirely caricaturized.
Not even, because obviously that's what white supremacists do when using Jewish people or black people. What I mean is, like, there is no such person that exists that is Q. Like, Q is not real. You know what I mean? Like,
I do.
like the person writing as Q or people that are writing as Q are real, but Q himself, as in the high level governmental enigma, he does not exist. And they're following a non-existent person, whereas white supremacists are following real people who tell them bullshit things about other real people. You have
Does
here.
it seem does it seem does it seem religious to you, like
Oh,
in
it
a way?
is totally a religious
Like
thing.
Matt Christman has talked about it being like the new Great Awakening and stuff like
I mean,
that. And I'm sort of like,
that's
I don't know if it's exactly a comparison, but like that rings a bell. That rhymes.
I mean,
You know?
they use the term Great Awakening. That's the storm is the mass arrests, and the storm was supposed to bring about the Great Awakening, where everyone realizes all this stuff is uncovered. Everyone realizes, and you have to understand how important this is. The Great Awakening is everyone realizes that they were correct. That is the Great Awakening to them. Like, what's the classic thing like that? Like the anti-establishment people use, like everyone's a sheep, and one day they'll wake up and they won't be sheeple anymore, and they'll realize
Got the right pill for them.
Right. Yes.
There's a pill.
And while there is some sort of usually like self-flating aspect to it, where
people are pill-pilled.
Right. But what like there is some sort of like they want the credit for being right in that, but for QAnon that is everything though.
Yeah.
Like they are looking for this acceptance, and they are so deep into this that it's super important that they turn out to be right, and everyone else realizes that they were right. I haven't had I haven't had any of the Chapo guys on this show. I should reach out to them and have them on this show. Matt's probably the one I know the
Matt's
least.
super nice. Like we've had him on GMC, and he's like the nicest guy. He really is.
Yeah, I've heard. I mean, I know Felix and Justin because I've actually worked with Felix and Justin for a bit. But I haven't met Matt before. But I got to reach out and have him on because I think that's a great way to put it, and it's been the fact that he uses Great Awakening from a religious standpoint. I mean, that's literally what they call it, the Great Awakening.
Yeah.
As it terms to how it affects leftist organizing, I wouldn't focus on these guys. I mean, you should know them. You should know them and understand them in terms of knowing who your enemies are. In terms of, because I think there's a big mistake on the left. Actually, they do not. I mean, honestly, I think I'm one of the few leftist shows that focus on the right. Like, there are other shows that focus on the right, but they're not necessarily leftists. And there are a lot of leftist shows that talk about the right, but it's not like a primary focus. They sort of don't find the right or like the conspiracy theory stuff to be all that important, maybe. I don't know. But I think it's important for leftists to pay attention to this stuff and know who their enemies are and who they're combating and who they're competing against in terms of trying to win people over. But in terms of who you win over, it's not these people.
Yeah, no. So that's exactly the right point. Like in there are a couple of shows that do it. I know you're one of the great ones with Doomed, and like the QAnon Anonymous folks and the TrueAnon folks do a little bit of that. But yeah, by and large, in like the small like left media space that exists is not super like, at least in like the know thy enemy sense, like not super aware of what's happening here. And that's I don't know if it's a place that there just needs to be more communication, or like how do you kind of proceed with that I'm sorry, I'm kind of asking like big brain questions.
I don't know what it is. I'm sure it's different for each and every person. I think they probably don't. I think that also part of it is that covering the right has sort of been more of a normie progressive type thing, Yeah. I don't know. I mean, but the people who do the work are really into that. Like, Jared Holt is clearly like someone on the left. But if you think of permanent leftists, you don't think of Jared. You think of Jared as the right wing guy who who researches them. People over at Media Matters do great work, but obviously because of the history of Media Matters, which I personally don't think is relevant to the work they do at all, especially the modern work they do, especially. People on the left sort of, poo-poo Media Matters, which I think is a big mistake.
At least in the sense, like in the fucking like the material sense of you can use this, even if you don't agree where they're coming from. If you can use this to advance what you're trying to do, then why the hell don't you do it, right?
Right.
In a purely like Machiavellian sense.
Right. And honestly, I think like when it comes to leftist shows, and I'm not going to call anyone out because there's no one to call out. Like it's literally the whole leftist sphere. And I'm not saying it's just my personal taste. I'm not a theory guy. I know there's people who like talking that stuff. I just
God
not.
bless you, are, yeah.
What's that?
I think God bless you if you are,
Right,
whatever.
right. It's just not. So many of these leftist shows are talking like theory, and it's just not for me.
It's removed from reality, isn't it? Like it's actually it's when you put things in like purely academic terms, you're putting them in a term that is actually you have to do a certain amount of work to figure out what it means to actually do the thing that they're talking about doing, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, listen, I get it. I know why it's important. I think it's important to read a lot of these books and understand. Obviously, of course. I mean, I have some background in some of this the leftist theory, but it's not my specialty, and I know it's not my specialty.
Right.
But also, I feel like you just said, like there's too much put onto it. It's if you're doing it for other leftists who are going to organize, I get it. If you're doing this to win over apolitical or non-political people, you're playing the wrong wrong battle, fighting the wrong battle here, because it's just not relevant to that specific thing.
100%. So like I'm a teacher and I know more than anybody else how popular giving somebody homework is.
Right. Yeah. I mean, right, exactly. Just what the left needs to be doing is talking to more people who are not political. I know it's hard, obviously, because that requires real work, and I don't mean it in like a way where like people don't want to do the work. No, I mean it as someone who works a full-time job, also does these things like the show, has 2 kids. I totally get that you don't have time for the work. That's what I mean. It's a lot of work, but that's the way that it's going to happen. I mean,
100%.
and
100%.
reach out to those people however you can. I hope I do in some way when I'm doing whatever. I mean, honestly, I think like say what you will about them. I'm a fan of a number of people who do this sort of stuff. YouTubers, especially people like the Young Turks, who do sort of like mainstream progressive type commentary, because I will guarantee you they have probably brought more people into. You could disagree with their takes. You could think they're not left enough. I have criticisms for them as well. One criticism, for example, is, for me personally, hiring one person who gets a big profile from your show and then goes on to be a big right-wing talker is one thing, but when there's more than one person, there seems to be a problem with the hiring methods over there.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about Dave Rubin and Mr. Dorr.
Yeah, and they had some like a spotty record with the. I mean, it wasn't. I wouldn't call it. Well,
Michael Tracy.
Michael Tracy is another one, but I was talking about like the relation that they had with their union when they had the union drive and they didn't like recognize like there's definitely limitations here. But like when you look at like as an entity or as a force like in the left, like the Young Turks is definitely better than like CNN and shit like that, you know.
And I will guarantee you that the Young Turks have brought a lot of people who were apolitical or non-political into the at least the progressive sphere.
I mean, yeah, that was like integral for my like gateway drug into actually understanding the left. And like I mean, I don't really get hang up on like I'm a XY socialist communist or whatever, but I'm like doing work with my union, with my school, with my local DSA, where like that's the important shit. Like what you're saying and what you're calling yourself or whatever is less so the case.
I actually think the DSA is super integral to the future of the left, more so than I think they get credit for. I think they are the closest thing that we'll have to a third party, yet they are smart enough to know that they need to work within the two-party system. There's no, the Greens, this People's Party, that whatever it is that Jimmy Dore is pushing, got no chance. They don't understand how
they're a reaction to an actual left on a lot of ways too.
Right. DSA knows how to work within the system to get what they want. They have lots of electoral success so far, and they are able to get people on the street, which is not easy. A lot of these movements or groups, they have numbers on paper, they have people support them online, but if you need people knocking on doors, they can't give you shit. And the DSA is able to really get people motivated to move on the ground. I don't think there's many other groups like that, at least as far left as the DSA. There's probably...
Yeah, and if I have anything to say about it, and a lot of the comrades that we have, like in the unions that we have as well, like that's critical too. Like none of this happens without a labor movement.
Right.
Like, period.
Right, absolutely. So, QAnon still going to be an issue. It'll obviously... I mean, I know a lot of people think I am about this stuff, but I'm not a soothsayer. I can't tell you what's going to happen with QAnon. It'll be an issue in some form. The left should be aware of it because they are competition for some of those people, and they are working against, in a sense, the broader right-wing reactionary movements in general, whether it be a conspiratorial movement, a white nationalist movement, like a men's rights movement. Who knows if they'll make a comeback? All these sorts of different reactionary movements, these far-right movements, extremist movements, the Groypers, who never really took off in any sort of... But who knows? They could find their mojo under a Biden administration. We just need to... I think you just need to be aware that these groups exist. And
I think things are like the... kind of like the mushrooms that pop up on the fallow ground of depoliticization too. Like when you create this context of a depoliticized society, which is what like the Biden talk about unity and all this other crap like is about, and if there's no material anything that goes to the workers and to most of the people, then I think that the conspiracy theory is inevitable. Like the capitalist realism of it all, it becomes like almost like, well, screw this. We have to reject this and overturn the table.
Right. Yeah. Right. I think also, you made me think of, there's a lot of people out there who just want to be anti-establishment.
Oh yeah, the worst people.
Yes, and the fact of the matter is that, I mean, your elected officials aren't always bad, especially if you are electing people on the left. Like the idea that all elected officials are bad and the DSA is getting people into office, and you are then the force the vote movement, for example. The idea that the squad is bad, or what do they call them, the fraud squad or something like that?
The fraud squad, yeah.
Like, give me a fucking break. I mean, are you kidding me?
And it's not even to say you can't have critiques of them, because you can. You can have critiques of anything about any of those folks as long as you're talking about the things that they're actually doing. But if you're going to come in and you're going to say, like, AOC is a sellout because she won't, like, do this very specific thing that you said, which is, like, and I know how you feel about Nancy Pelosi, so excuse me, like, I would never encourage anyone to hold their vote from Nancy Pelosi just for your sake. At least not while I'm talking to you.
I mean, listen, Pelosi is the guiding light. Pelosi is my guiding light.
But you know what I'm saying? Like the idea that like if you don't do the exact thing that like that's articulated by the Force the Vote movement, that is evidence that you're a sellout, is just such a lazy approach to doing the thing that you think that you're doing. Right. And it's actually an extremely destructive approach because it takes every other bit of... I mean, I was actually on the stream earlier tonight that I was doing with the St. Orleans, sorry to do the plug again, but like AOC was out with those Teamsters that were, I think it was Local 202, that had cops just arrested people who were a part of that protest AOC was on the ground, like literally shouting into a bullhorn with those workers out there. And you're gonna tell me that she's a fucking sellout? Are you kidding me?
Right.
You know, I don't know. It's one of those things that gets me very, very hot under the collar.
Oh no, same here. Listen, like you said, push them all you want, hold their feet to the fire, criticize them, but what are you going to extract from them by, calling them the fraud squad? You think they're gonna? I mean, what does that do other than demean them and belittle them?
And make you look like an asshole.
Yeah.
Like that's the other thing too. Like if you're trying to say you're doing this in the name of Medicare for all, and I'm not even saying they're doing like damage to Medicare for all or whatever. I think they don't matter that much. But like it's just extremely annoying to know that people like people who are in National Nurses United and people who are a part of the Labor for Single Payer effort, which has a convention coming up this week. None of them signed on in this approach. But the fact that you decided to do like a media blitz on it is sort of silly, right? It's very silly.
Did you see they tried to turn it into a respectability politics thing, a critique of respectability politics? I saw that online. When anyone would criticize the fraud the vote hashtag, they'd be like, "Oh, we're supposed to respectability politics." That's not what that is. That's like basic.
But you're fucking up the work that we laid for the past decade.
Right. Like I don't give a shit about respectability politics. I think the whole norms of treating people, like calling people by like, whatever is like, I can't even think off the top of my head, but reserving some sort of respectful names to people. I don't give a shit about that. What I'm saying is like, would you turn into like Andrew Dice Clay to when you're trying to like work with someone and be like, hey, cocksucker, help me out over here. You know what I mean? Like, no, that's not what you would do. Like, that's not.
It only works if it's funny, right? And it's not funny.
Well, yes, yeah. Well, Andrew, yeah, right, okay.
Anyway, I don't mean to keep you on all night. I know you were getting ready to hop off, but thank you so much for like holding on and take my call. It was really great to talk with you, and yeah, I appreciate the work you've been doing for a long time, brother.
I appreciate you calling in. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Call in again too if you ever listen to the show.
Absolutely, bro. And maybe you should come on GMC sometime.
Oh, reach out to me. I've Twitter, DM me there. I've said my email number of times. I'm always open to going on any shows.
Cool. Well, thanks, bro.
Take care. All right, guys. Was not expecting the inauguration special to go on for 3 hours, but there we go. So that's the show for today. I'm just going to quickly read these leftover super chats. Samantha Sider says, think QAnon believers become Nazis? Stay with Q both? Probably both. There'll be both. There'll be some people, I mean, the far right's also already after them. Keegan with a super chat, automatic contribution via Soros Inc. Ooh. Samantha with a super chat, Matt getting sued by Dominion before the stream is over, LOL. Vinny asks, do you think QAnon is a preview of a future with so much easy access to information? We're going to have to talk more about that, but short answer is yes in some ways. We'll have to, that's a really good question. Alas with a super chat. Love seeing you on Zero. Congrats, Conrad. Thank you. I'm Seti with a super chat. Speaking as an ex-conservative raised religious, QAnon and the far right are basically what you get when you take away religion, but retain all the judgment, damnation, apocalypse frameworks, etc. That's a really good point. Let me just read that to myself for a second. Right, but it's right. That is a great point, I'm Seti. Ed with a super chat just to say hello. Thank you, Ed. And Robert with the last minute super chat. This year has been hell studying for the bar. My mom got lung cancer, but you are an inspiration. Wish I could jam with you sometime. Anyhow, Michael Jamal Brooks had a vision. Medicare for all, Green New Deal. Robert, thank you so much for those kind words. I really appreciate it. I hope your mom is. I really hope she fights that and it goes into remission and she's happy and healthy and okay. Really rooting for her. Good luck with the bar. Hang tight, man. When you say wish I could jam with you sometime, are you talking podcast show or music? We can figure something out. I'm looking forward to doing live stuff. Little hint, I guess, for the patrons here. I'm really looking forward. We're coming to the anniversary of the last time I saw Michael in person. It was at the Michael Brooks show live in Brooklyn, the last one in Brooklyn he did, where I was a guest. And as someone who had done, I was doing multiple live shows a week with my band back in the day. And then the band broke up and I didn't do live stuff, but I always had that itch to do live. And then Michael inviting me on that show made me like really want to do live shows again. And I was like, probably do them much smaller than Michael's. Michael could pack a bigger space than I can, but it'd be cool to get a couple dozen people out to a live show and make that a podcast episode. I really look forward to doing that once this is all done, and I'm totally going to do it. And Michael gave me that push to do it, and when this pandemic is done, I'm going to do it. When this pandemic subsides, is I guess the better terminology, and we could do live shows again. I'm going to do it. Even if it's just a few dozen people max, I'm fine with that. It'll be fun. All right, folks. That is the show. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Things will be very interesting under a Biden administration. It'll be very different, very interesting. The show will be, honestly, I think, there'll be more to talk about, honestly. Because the Trump administration, quite frankly, was running on fumes because Trump was so incompetent. I think there will be a rise on the right in certain aspects, which we will stay on so you could be aware of it and we could fight back against it. And there will be an administration to actually push on leftist ideals, which we will do on this show. And we will get great guests on to talk about it all. All right, folks. See you all next time on Doomed.